I think someone cut my. Oh, I got it myself. Okay. It kept fading without me pushing it. It was weird.
You were ready to go to war there for a second.
At first, I was doing all that. Maybe it was a delayed fade. And no one likes a delayed fade unless the delayed fade is on purpose.
Lonzo was ready to go to battle. He was ready to get after that ass.
I was ready to blame other people for something being wrong because,
That's what we do around here.
Well, it's a management thing. That's what you do.
Yeah. Justify your paycheck. Get mad at other people for things. Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Rod Brown Show on your radio. What day is it?
Friday, gotta get down on Friday.
Sure is. Totally forgot about that. Not going to lie.
Sorry, I needed to adjust your standing up volume, which is different from your sitting down volume.
It's better. Better volume.
It's louder for sure.
That's also true. Look at the swoop going on today.
I'll have to look on camera.
Got the volume going.
Look at you pretty soon. It's going to be covering the glasses, and you're going to be like Garth Brooks when he was that other guy.
Chris Gaines?
Yeah.
It's not a phase, Mom. It's not a phase. This is who I am. I'm a Chris Gaines guy. Welcome in, folks. Good to have you. Happy Friday morning. Snow expected later in the AM. That's all. I would just put it there. Let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. About 3.5 hours from now. Expected up to 3 inches of snow, which was if you were with the show yesterday.
Hold on. Are you joking?
No, I'm dead serious.
I didn't hear that. So, yeah. Which means we probably won't get anything. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. Completely unexpected. Yesterday, snow's enough. It coats the ground outside. Expected today. Won't see an inch. All I know is it snowed so hard yesterday that we stopped the show just to talk about it. The show ended at 10. I got done with what I needed to do here at about 11:15. I walked outside. If I told you it snowed, you'd have called me a liar.
Yeah, it was.
It's gone.
I had a little bit of snow on the right side of my car. By the way, it's a balmy 21 degrees according to the weather app, which also says there's no snow in the forecast. So but
look, we'll find out.
It didn't say it yesterday either. So
we'll find out. So we'll talk about that. I
probably should listen to the weather that we actually play. Once or twice an hour.
Here's what I do know. What I do know is that without a doubt, the snow across the Atlantic seaboard yesterday was nothing more than a psyop put into place by the Canucks to distract the Americans from the Four Nations final, because that's the only way. That's not true. The Canadians did enough, and the Americans didn't last night. Team Canada 3-2 winners in overtime of the Four Nations face-off final. Look, the Americans played really good hockey for about 10 minutes to open that game, and then something happened. All
I know is I was sold a bill of goods, and so were a lot of people sold a bill of goods. All right.
What do you think you didn't get?
Well, I didn't get fights but I didn't watch the entire thing. I just watched the
there were none.
First period. There started to be one right at the beginning, and the referees or whatever they're called in hockey said nope.
There were a bunch of almost fights throughout the game. Not a bunch. There were 4 or 5 almost fights.
We tuned in. And I'm going to say all the people who don't normally watch hockey, we tuned in to see some fights, and we didn't see any.
So you didn't. Okay, here's what I want then. I need you to say you didn't tune in to watch hockey. You didn't tune in to watch hockey. You tuned in to watch fights. I know. I'm talking about the Royal. You're not you specifically. Okay. You did say that. I need those people to say, I didn't tune in for hockey. I tuned in to watch fights. Well, if you tune in to watch fights, go to YouTube and put in Anderson Silva and go watch some YouTube. There's some fights for you.
But here's the thing. So all the hype across all of sportsdom, which made some people go there who normally wouldn't go there to watch. This was your chance to hook people, and you didn't.
If you
didn't. I was asleep fairly quick, very bored. As soon as I saw that the refs were going to call it the way they did, it's like, okay, this is just going to be a lot of back and forth with very little scoring, which is what hockey almost always is.
First off, no, it's not.
Okay.
Over-unders in the NFL or in the NHL this year averaging about 5.5. You're getting 5 or 6 goals a game.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
You're getting 5 or 6 goals a game. So Here's what I'll
I know
say.
you're wearing a hockey jersey and you want to fight right now. I could tell.
I do a little bit.
Because you're all antsy.
Not you in
because-
particular, just
Well,
a lot
I
of
mean,
people.
you made
A lot
it
of you
for-
and a lot of people like you.
Okay. All right.
Here's the take. Here's the response from me then. Fights happen in hockey. Hockey are not fights. Fights happen in hockey. But if you tuned into that game last night, this is just the reality. If you tuned into that game last night and you tuned in to watch fights, then there's nothing that was going to hook you as a long-term hockey fan. If you tuned into that game and went, oh, we just played 20 minutes and nobody punched anybody else in the face, then I'm not hooking you on hockey and I don't care about you. That's kind of where that is, okay?
Fine. We all still love you, Rob.
I know,
I
thanks.
mean, you could not care about us, but it doesn't have to go both ways. It should.
I don't care about you as the person that I wanted to reach last night. Okay. That's like Lonzo. If you were out there trying to sell, I'm trying to think of something I really dislike here. If you're out there trying to sell,
Any children's books.
there you go. There you go. No, that's great. That's great. That's great. That's a great example. I'm happy to use it. Lonzo, if you went out there and you were trying to sell children's books and I walked in and I picked one up and I looked through it and you walked over and went, you have kids? And I went, no. And you say, do you like, the pink fluffy caterpillars? And I go, this is a good book, but no, not really. You would go, I'm wasting my time trying to sell to this man.
Well,
There's no point in this conversation to me.
First of all, bad analogy, because if I were selling children's books, the first thing I would ask is, do you have children? And when you said no, then I would leave.
Right,
Because
right,
that
right,
would be
right.
that would be pointless.
Right.
Here's the thing. Last night, I told my wife, I was like, I'm gonna go lay down and watch in the bedroom. She's like, what are you watching? I said, hockey. She said, what? Exactly.
But here's the thing.
Exactly.
You, respectfully, weren't watching hockey. You were watching for fights. That's not watching hockey. That's like the people who tune in to watch racing, but they go, nobody crashed. Well, you didn't turn in to watch a race. You tuned in to watch a crash.
Well, I was.
Is that fair? Does that make sense? That makes sense, right?
Yeah, but you still want those people tuning in too. I was unaware that they were playing on American soil. If I knew that,
Baston?
I wouldn't have watched, because I would have known that the things that hyped them up the first time around would not be there, and it wasn't there, and they weren't hyped the way Canada was, and that's why Canada won.
I disagree. From a hockey perspective, from a hockey guy perspective. By the way, this the jersey that I'm wearing. Did you ever see Slapshot back in the day?
Yes.
Okay, so
I saw it when it came out.
all right. So here's the thing.
You didn't.
No, I did not. I was not a thing yet. In the movie Slapshot, the team plays in the arena that the Johnstown Chiefs played in, which was an actual team. The Johnstown Chiefs are now the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. It's the same franchise. And so on Monday, the Swamp Rabbits did a throwback day and they busted out the Johnstown Chiefs
I was going
logo.
to say that looks brand new.
It
That's
is.
what I was going to say.
Got
Yeah.
the bits
Oh, I
patch on
didn't-
one side.
I didn't see the Swamp
Yeah.
Rabbits patch.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
Isn't it dope? Isn't it great? And of course, bam.
Yeah, I couldn't see that because you're standing up, but
It's
but
okay.
I can
Name's on the
imagine what
back.
it was.
So, all right, put that aside. Point is, I'm a hockey guy. Point
No,
is,
don't put that
I'm a
aside.
hockey
If
guy.
you want to see the jersey,
Come to the stream, facebook.com/The Fan Upstate, The Fan Upstate on Twitch, on YouTube, The Rob Brown Show on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitch. Okay, as a hockey guy, what I loved about the Four Nations face-off was that we had four teams, Sweden, Finland, Canada, and the United States of America. And it was evident from puck drop of game number 1, Canada versus Sweden. It was evident from the initial drop of the puck that not just was this best on best, the best players across the NHL from the 4 best hockey countries, arguably. Russia's not allowed to be here. The 4 best hockey countries on planet Earth. And it was very obvious, not just were these the best players on planet Earth, but they were playing. They wanted to win the damn thing. They wanted to win all 3 games in the round robin. They wanted to win a final. They all wanted to win it, which, if we go back to earlier this week when we were talking about the All-Star game, the reality is about 25% of the guys in the NBA All-Star game care if they win or lose that game. Every dude on the ice, all 4 countries, all 4 games, wanted to win the Four Nations face-off. And to me, that translated to very good hockey. Not just very good hockey, but very good hockey being played by the best hockey players on the face of the planet. It was only fitting that the overtime winner for America's hat last night was netted by Connor McDavid, the best hockey player on the planet right now. So, respectfully, if you tuned into that game and you felt bored or disappointed or whatever because there weren't fights, the reality here is I'm not hooking you as a hockey fan. I'm not going to get you on Saturday when the NHL fires back up and we got a fistful of games on Saturday, including a couple of Stanley Cup candidates. I'm not convincing you to take time out of your day Saturday to watch NHL hockey, which is going to be a step back in terms of the overall talent, though the teams will be better because they're teams and they've been playing together for, 46 games or whatever it is. I wasn't going to hook you. I maybe could get you to tune in for the Olympics next year and watch some Olympics hockey, but I'm not getting you back in for the NHL. You're not who I've been excited about getting into hockey for the last couple of weeks. The folks that I've been excited about getting into the hockey were the folks who were going to get in because of the intensity of this tournament, because of the electricity of this tournament, because of the fact that you might have jumped in and went, oh, man, they fought 3 times in 9 seconds in the Canada-U.S. round robin game. And then you stuck around for the, 59 minutes and 51 seconds of hockey that came after that. And you went, hey, this game's actually pretty fun. This game's actually entertaining. This game's fast. This game's physical. This game takes talent and skill, but it also takes strength and brute force. You know who I was looking for? I was looking for the folks who text into this show on the reg and go, the NBA's boring because it's soft. I was looking for the people who text into this show on the reg and go, why don't they just put skirts on the quarterbacks nowadays? Those are the people I was looking for. And I was looking for those people because, good Lord in heaven, hockey's exactly the other way around. The boys are getting after it. So if you tuned in to the Four Nations final last night and you went, oh, they're not fighting, whatever, I'm not going to hook you anyway. But if you looked and you watched the round robin games, if you watched Canada-U.S. on Saturday night and you went, okay, I could see myself being a hockey guy. I could see myself getting into this game. I could see this becoming something that becomes a hobby or whatever of mine, something I could be a fan of. I think he got a real good game last night. There were some parts in it that I was disappointed in. I think there were a few spots that Team USA were very panicky. I think there were some spots that they got a little frantic. I think there were some spots last night where Team USA arguably played their worst full-strength game of this tournament. It happens. Sometimes you can. That's why I like that Stanley Cups and NBA Finals are 7-game series, because it allows a good team, maybe the better team, it allows them to have an off night, but still be the better team over a period of time that allows them to win the championship. The best team's going to win in a 7-game series. I think Team USA was a better team than Team Canada in this tournament. However, they did not have their best night last night. On the flip side, Canada, to me, last night didn't do anything special. They weren't remarkable. You know what they were? Efficient, clean, effective. They took advantage of Team USA mistakes, and Team USA kept them up. Team USA kept turning the puck over in the neutral zone. Team USA was too unselfish. We had too many guys that were getting apples up top of the zone with a look, and instead of just firing one at Binningham, instead of just firing one into the net, throwing it into traffic, and let's see what the chaos shakes up to look like. Let's challenge Jordan.
Okay, did you say apples?
Yeah, assist. That's a hockey term for assist.
Is it? Okay,
Yeah.
that's the first time I've heard that.
Apples. I've said it on the show before.
I don't know. I don't think.
But
so.
I also suspect that when I get deep enough into the hockey conversation that I start throwing the hockey words in there, I assume a lot of you guys just kind of tune out. And that's okay. That's okay. That's why we talk every sport here on the show, okay? Jordan Bennington last night did not face he faced 33 shots. He saved 31. And as far as I'm concerned, the Americans probably should have had 9-10 more shots on goal. We've talked about this in other sports too. There are times where players are too unselfish. There are times when players are too much of a team player. Sometimes I need a guy to put on the cape, to put the underoos on the outside, and to be a hero. And last night, the Americans did not have any heroes. You had a bunch of Hawkeyes and Black Widows and no Captain Americas and Thors. That was the problem. Too many times, the puck would be sent up to the top of the attacking third, and you'd have a guy that you go, have a rip. Shoot a rocket in there and let's see what happens in the chaos. And they would take it and then send it over for one more pass around. That's not it. On the flip side, the Canadians figured that out. They're turning it over in the neutral. When they get down to our end, they're all making the extra pass, sometimes to the detriment of the offense. So let's get them on the counter. Let's rush them back the other way. Let's get them out of sorts. And what happened was, because Canada was playing effectively on the counterattack, Team USA started playing off the back foot. They started dropping back a little bit. They were so afraid of the Canuck counter that they stopped doing what they did. They got him there. That's been like the tone of championship games going back to the World Series of last year. Dance with the girl that brought you. If you lose, you lose. But play the style of game that got you here in the first place. And it felt like Team USA got out of sorts. They got panicky. They were physical as hell for about 15 minutes of hockey, and then they stopped. There were a couple of guys putting dudes into the boards, and everybody else backed off. And as soon as they backed off, it's like it doesn't feel like the same game. And oh, by the way, if you're in overtime, it's golden goal. First score wins. Maybe don't let the best player on planet Earth be wide open in front of the damn goal. Guys, what are we doing? We started puck chasing, and we got hammered because of it. Hell of a tournament, though. Back after this, we'll talk more about that, get some college basketball and more on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Not that this is concerned about, but Doug and Chris are going to join us on the stream at 7:20 to talk about that soccer league we talked about yesterday. So,
I already checked it.
okay.
I'm trying to make it a matter of course. The fact that
I'll remember from this.
the fact that it hasn't been done again is weird. I mean, it would be different if I come in here every day and it was like that.
Were they on remote the day before? I bet I know exactly why it was. I bet they were on remote. I bet they muted that so that
They were, but that's the day we had the problem was Wednesday. Yesterday we were fine.
Oh, you're
So-
right, you're right.
so-
But they were not.
They were, but we were here
Were
first.
they remote the day before?
No.
They were not. No. Huh. I don't know.
Dell Technologies is celebrating with anniversary savings on their most popular tech. For a limited time only, save on select next-gen PCs like the XPS 16, powered by Intel Core Ultra processors and more. Plus, curate your dream setup with great deals on select monitors, mice, and more must-have electronics and accessories. When you shop online at Dell.com/deals, you'll have access to leading-edge technology to match your forward-thinking spirit and free shipping on everything. Again, that's Dell.com/deals.
At Skechers, we put the S in comfort. Now, I know you're probably spelling comfort in your head and asking yourself, is that possible? Am I just a really bad speller? Look, I don't know your spelling aptitude, but Skechers most definitely put the S in comfort. Because Skechers is the comfort technology company and has developed fits and features that change everything you know about comfort. Like hands-free Skechers slippers, the ultimate in comfort and convenience. It's footwear you just step into and they're on, with no bending down. Find Skechers at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. At Progressive, they're making things even easier. They'll help you bundle your home and car insurance together so you can save on both. Learn more at Progressive.com. 1-800-Progressive.
Yeah, so I think, Mike, what was the most frustrating part about that was there were plenty of times where the lane was maybe a guy or two out front screening the keeper, and we weren't shooting. And then in the third period, all of a sudden, there'd be 5 guys all huddled around the goalkeeper. There's just a wall of humanity, and that's when we start firing shots in. It's like, okay, if you're going to move the puck, now's the time to move it. And they just didn't. Like it was frustrating. Hey, text line shout out early in the AM. To a text that didn't come. I got a text yesterday during Wire to Wire. And I appreciate Dewey signing the text, but Dewey texted very simply, Rob Brown should be fired. That's it. That's the whole text. Signed Dewey. Thanks, Dewey. I got to tell you.
Ooh, I wonder what you did.
I don't know.
Or were they talking about you? And that was in response to them talking about you.
I do know that they talked about one thing, which is they had Don Munson, the voice of the Clemson Tigers, on yesterday. Diesel texted me last night at like 10 o'clock. He's like, yo, did you listen today? I was like, a little bit, but it was a little bit later towards the end of the show. And he goes, we had Don on. I said, that's awesome. I said, what'd he say? I thought it was going to be, something Clemson football related that we'd have to get to today. And he said, we had Don Munson on. And while he was on hold, Zoe, he said the promo in which you and I sing the Real American Hulk Hogan song played. And he said, I asked Don Munson what he thought about y'all's performance of Hulk Hogan's theme song. And he said, Don just cracked up. Don just chuckled at it. I was like, it's good enough. It's all I want for. So I don't know if it's because of the fact that we sing the Real American, like we sing wrestling theme songs on the show.
Well, we know that it had nothing to do with us singing that. It had to do with the fact that Russia sucks and they banned us for singing the song.
Not just Russia.
And
like the entire axis of evil.
Yeah, it was the entire axis of evil, which is it's a badge of honor is what that is.
I'm not upset about it. I feel real good
but
about
I seriously doubt that's what it is. They had to talk about something else for them to want you, for the texter to want you fired.
Yeah, I mean straight up. It was
Dewey.
It was wild.
You think that was Dwayne?
I don't know.
Because Dwayne Johnson, his nickname is Dewey.
I thought his nickname was The Rock.
No, his real nickname is Dewey. So maybe Dwayne.
I gotta tell you, I kind of gotta go find it, right? Like I kind of gotta go find what Don said about that. But yeah, straight up walking here this morning, getting set everything up, open up the text line. One of the first one that pops up from the end of their show yesterday was Rob Brown should be fired. I kind of want to passive aggressively text him back, be like, turns out I wasn't.
Well, not the first person to text that, I'm sure.
Dude, probably not the first person that texted it yesterday. All right, let's keep going with the final to last night's Four Nations face-off. What went wrong for Team USA? Well, first off, and I think the biggest thing was Matthew Tkachuk was limited in that game. Got the start, played a good chunk. Something happened. We have not heard what it was. Matthew Tkachuk, obviously one half of the Bash Bros, the Tkachuk Bros. Matthew Tkachuk last night got banged up at some point during the game, came back onto the bench, and going into the end of the second period, he had only had like 6 minutes and some change of ice time. And the report came out that he was limited for the remainder of the game, was available, but that Team USA would only use him in certain situations and circumstances. Now, my assumption was that Matthew Tkachuk would come off the bench if Team USA went on the power play, right? You can isolate him up at the point. You can put him up top. You can play through him and kind of limit the amount of physical damage he would take if he was banged up. As PK Subban said yesterday on the show, not on our show, on his show, but we played it on the show. This was a are you hurt or are you injured kind of situation. Are you hurt? You're banged up, you're sore, or are you injured? You physically can't go. And Matthew Tkachuk clearly was injured, wanted to go. There was one power play in that game last night. I'll give the boys that. It was a clean game. One power play in that game last night. Killed off by the Americans. That was a big problem. Second big problem Team USA had was the narrative about the Canadian keeper Jordan Binnington was that Jordan Binnington is the type of keeper for the St. Louis Blues who is going to, every game, give up one goal that makes you go, what the was that? But he's going to make 4 or 5 saves that you're like, dude's, that's why the dude's an all-star. That dude's Superman. Jordan Binnington last night was spectacular. Spectacular. 33 shots against, 2 goals allowed, 31 saves, a 94% save percentage. Faced no power plays, played all 68 minutes and 18 seconds of hockey. In the overtime period, I was actually watching this game with Chris Lewis and Doug Irwin from the Triumph, both huge hockey guys. They invited me over to watch it, and I was like, why not? So I was watching it with Chris and Doug, and we got halfway through the third period, and the conversation between us was, Team USA doesn't have any heroes right now. You want to play good, clean team hockey. Team whatever sport. You want to play good, clean team whatever sport. But sometimes somebody's got to take over. Somebody's got to do something special. Somebody's got to do something that stands out, that excels, that hammers the accelerator, that turns on the afterburner, and that gets everybody to go, bang, there's the moment. That's our guy. We're following that guy. And as I said back in the last period, you absolutely had none of that from Team USA. You had guys playing, and it's hilarious to talk about this when we talk every day about how important sports is to developing youths of America to teach them how to be a good teammate and how to be unselfish, et cetera, et cetera. It's interesting to be sitting here in this spot and going, I needed somebody to be selfish. I needed somebody to want to be a superstar. I needed somebody to want to get their name in the damn newspaper because Team USA didn't have that. And so it just felt like an unselfish team that wasn't taking the amount of shots they should have taken from the spots they should have taken them. But we get to the overtime period. Team USA's got a couple of chances. Austin Matthews, the captain, is all of the sudden looking like Austin Matthews, the captain. I mean, playing good hockey, playing on the forecheck. We're not just, as we did for a lot of this game, dumping the puck down into the third and then chasing it. You know, there are spots, I've complained about this in soccer many times. There are spots where one team can look at the other team and can go, we're just better than you are. We're just going to out-athlete you. We're just going to knock the ball back there. We're going to be faster than you to get to it. We're going to be better than you at maneuvering it around, and that's going to win this game. You were taking on the best hockey team in the world, Team Canada, last night. And it felt like 2 out of every 3 American possessions was just clear the puck to the other end, then we'll race Team Canada down there, and we'll try to out-physical them off the puck. Yeah, it's not going to happen. They got some of the fastest skaters on the world, and every shift on every line. Not going to happen. So it got to the point where that strategy wasn't working. We go to overtime. Austin Matthews finally starts to look like Austin Matthews. He is playing on the forecheck. He's playing out front. He's getting out ahead of the puck. He's carrying the puck into the zone instead of just whacking it down to the other end and everybody chasing it. It looked good. And Austin Matthews had a possession about 3 minutes into the overtime, 4 minutes into the overtime period, where he had two really good back-to-back shots on goal. One from the left side, then another one over towards the right center. But Jordan Binnington did what he does. He gave up a goal earlier in the game that you went, oh, you shouldn't have given that one up. That's going to lose you the game. And then he became whatever Canada's favorite superhero is. I guess technically they get Wolverine. Then he suddenly became a superhero. Made a blocker save on the right. Puck then wraps its way around to the left side of the goal. Matthews gets a shot off that when I say I couch popped. Because I'm like, that's it. That's the game winner, right? Off the couch, hit the Tiger Woods. Maybe on me, a little preemptive, all right? Gave the Tiger Woods fist pump. I'm like, bang, there it is, Four Nations final. Doug Irwin and I were having a conversation where we both said going into that, if we win this game, we're both ordering Team USA jerseys of whoever scores the game winner, right? Whoever it is, we're ordering the jersey. It's like $180 on Fanatics. I was like, we win this tournament, whatever, I'm in. I thought that was it. I'm like, that's it, getting an Austin Matthews jersey. Jordan Binnington turns back left, dives to the other side, is 3 feet off the ground, completely vertical, reaches out, makes the save. It was unbelievable. In that moment, I went, we can't win this game. Can't win this game. If that guy is making that save on that shot from maybe America's best player, we can't win this game. Jordan Binnington was a brick wall all of a sudden. And then the American defense broke down. And I assume it was out of frustration. I assume it was out of, panic. But we got a face off on the American end. The Canucks working around the goal, and all of a sudden our defense is chasing the puck. All of a sudden our guys are trying to get to the puck instead of playing their spots. Connor McDavid finds himself with the puck right in front of Hellebuck, wide open, sets it up, puts a laser upper right 90 that I think is still traveling somewhere in the abyss. Canada wins. Team USA panicked. The puck didn't go their way. They stopped dancing with the girl they brought him. Canada wins the Four Nations. Later on in the show, I'm going to talk about why this tournament was such a success. Even without the trophy, even without the gold medals, it was still a wild success for the Americans. And I'll talk about that and a whole lot more. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Fan Upstate. I'll be right back.
kind of messed up. But
Don't bother me. I like it.
oh no, it's don't start firing serious
You know why?
salvos.
I'm a real American.
Yeah.
And also, Russia can suck it.
All right, LeBron, a 40 ball.
Did he just call him old ass?
Yeah, I sent it to you. Do you know who it is?
No, it's got to be Bronny, right?
I want you. It's on. I want you. I sent it to you on X. I want you to see who it is without me telling you.
Is that on Twitter?
Did I not send it to you? Thought I did.
Last thing I got from you was Otis saying, I've been in the No Net Club for years, babe.
I sent you several things. Hold on.
I got the Joe Hendry thing. I got something from TNA.
Yeah, that's Elijah showing up. All right, I just sent it to you. Now.
Oh, Austin Reeves.
Yeah. I'm not gonna play that clip for anything, but you might
I
want
am.
to. Right. So I mean, that seems more your style. So
Yep.
and the look on LeBron's face. And it kind of it might apply for you
That's
in
why I'm
just a
clipping
couple
it.
days.
That's why I'm clipping it. All right, that's some hockey. We'll talk some more hockey later in the show. That was a objectively great tournament, objectively great event, objectively spectacular in every single aspect of it, with the exception of Team USA not getting the dub. But that's sports, right? You know what else? I'm going to say objectively awesome. You may disagree. Last night, 40-year-old, because there's nothing wrong with being 40, and you can be excellent when you are 40. I'm not saying that for any particular reason. 40-year-old LeBron James, who did turn 40 back in December, he is older than I am. Makes me feel real good. Dropped the 40 burger in a 110-102 win over the Portland Trail Blazers. LeBron James is now the only player in the history of the National Basketball Association with multiple 40-point games after turning 40 years of age. He's got 2 of them. The Lakers are 2-0 when LeBron has scored 40 after 40. He was doing the post-game presser, and it's not playing because my technology hates me. He was doing the post-game presser, and after the presser was over, Austin Reeves walked up behind him. I don't know why it's not going to do it. Why not? Austin Reeves walked up behind him and said, 40 bomb, old ass, which is just a great clip. And in just a couple of days is going to hurt me. In a way, it doesn't hurt me today.
LeBron, a 40 ball, old ass.
Old ass. I have said this a couple of times this season. And some of you are good with it. Some of you not good with it. What we are seeing out of LeBron James is spectacular. It just is. I said earlier this week, and I stand on this because I do believe that you are allowed to have differing opinions on things. I was spectacularly disappointed in LeBron James this weekend. Somebody floated a theory, and I think it's an interesting one. I don't think it's right, but somebody floated a theory that the reason that LeBron removed himself from the All-Star game, and not only removed himself from the All-Star game, but didn't really participate in anything, with the exception of the All-Star team photo shoot, where he showed up, stood front and center of his All-Star team, holding a basketball, in street clothes. All the other guys in their All-Star game unis. He's in street clothes. It's frankly, it's a very awkward picture. Pulled himself out just a little while before the game. Didn't give enough time for them to get somebody else in there. Forced his team, his OG team, to play with 7 guys instead of 8. And I was disappointed in that. So there's a theory that's floating around on the interwebs right now that this was a business decision for LeBron James. Why? The NBA All-Star Game, going into the weekend, there were a lot of folks asking the question, does anybody care? Does anybody care? Is anybody going to watch it? Is anybody going to tune in? And the answer to those questions were no, nobody cares and nobody's going to tune in. And I do think that to some degree, at least for those of us that are dorks with microphones, I do think to some degree, the NHL's a little bit to blame because credit to the NHL, while all of that was going on, the Four Nations face-off was taking place and it was electric boogie woogie woogie. So the theory going around on the internet right now is LeBron James bailed on this All-Star game because he wants to play one more season. He's going to play a season in which he will enter at 40, and he will play the back half of the season at 41 years of age. It will allow him to add a handful more records onto the record books. It will allow him to continue to pile on to his all-time scoring title. It would allow him to do all these things that nobody's ever done before and to potentially take a few more records away from some legends of the game who just didn't have the longevity that LeBron James had. What's that got to do with the All-Star game? The All-Star game ratings, while I do not have the official numbers yet, down. Nobody cared. Even with all the gimmicks, even with all the changes, nobody cared. Well, next year, the thought is, according to this theory, and I'm interested to see if any of you buy into it. The theory is that next year, the NBA will have a new format of All-Star Game. Will it be Team USA versus Team everybody else? Will it go back to East-West? Will it go back to drafted teams? Who knows? But the thought is the NBA will restructure the All-Star Game next year to try to make it, what's the word I'm looking for here? Good and worth my time. Next year would theoretically...
That's technically more than one word.
Yeah, I know, it's a joke.
Say it.
Theoretically, next year would be LeBron James' final All-Star Game. Theoretically. And so the thought right now is this was a business decision from LeBron James so that next year, in a year where the NBA, we'll see, will theoretically put in the effort to make the NBA All-Star Game competitive, good, and worth my time. LeBron can come in and go, this is my last All-Star Game, guys. I'm done after this year. I'm taking a walk. This is the last time you'll see me as an All-Star. And even if the All-Star Game isn't necessarily your cup of tea, if you're a basketball guy, like him or hate him, the thought is, I got to tune in to watch LeBron's final ASG. And it's basically LeBron utilizing the hype machine that he has built by being LeBron James. I don't know that I'm in on the theory, but I also don't think I'm out on the theory. Because it is not a secret that LeBron James is business first. He goes out, he has his fun and all that. A couple of years back, LeBron started doing these videos and live streams where he would live stream Taco Tuesday. You know, that thing that all of us have said and done since tacos were invented, and we went, oh, wait a minute. Taco Tuesday is alliteration and also a delicious meal. I've been doing Taco Tuesdays for as long as I can remember. LeBron started doing streams on Taco Tuesdays, and what did he do? He tried to trademark Taco Tuesday. Tried to trademark it. Nobody else could use Taco Tuesday. Now, for the record, I'm not mad at him. People try to trademark stuff all the time that other people use all the time. Am I right, Zohio State?
I was going to say that's the thing to do.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at him for it. But the point is, business is always first. LeBron James, I don't know if he's there yet, but he's going to be a billionaire with a B, a billionaire. Don't know if he's there yet. Don't really care. But he's going to be. And as I've said a bunch of times, if you want to be a billionaire with a B on the front end, money has to be your first and only objective. You can have a family and you can love your kids and you can do all that. But when it comes to any decision made outside of your house, and the majority of them in that, it's got to be money first. And LeBron James is that guy. I don't fault him for it.
Is it possible that maybe LeBron looked around and went, man, this is going to be really bad this year. I don't think I want to be a part of this.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I mean, the timing of it, the fact that he bailed a couple of hours before the game lends that to being a possible conclusion. Absolutely. He might have looked and went, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to watch. So therefore, I'm not sticking my name on this. Because again, business first always for LeBron James. Not judging him for it. He's a billionaire. The game clearly worked when he played it that way. But the thought is he may have, because I don't know how many people. I don't know if it's a few dozen, a few hundred, a few thousand, a few million. I am sure that there's at least some group of people that said, well, if LeBron's not playing, I'm not watching. I don't think it would have been necessarily a large enough swath of basketball viewership that it would have changed the NBA All-Star game from failure to success, but I'm sure they were out there to some degree. The theory right now is that LeBron James knows next year's his last year, therefore next year is his next All-Star game. By leaving himself on the roster, not removing himself until a couple of hours before the game, LeBron James ensured that he will be called an all-star, which makes it what, his like 20th or 19th all-star selection? He ensured he stays listed as an all-star. His name is on the roster even if he didn't play, but he gets to come back next year with, and I will say, fingers crossed, an emphasis from the National Basketball Association to make that game great again. LeBron comes back. The NBA actually finds a way to make it competitive. LeBron plays in it, and LeBron gets to do his farewell tour in front of maybe the most attended and viewed All-Star game in recent memory, and to some degree, take credit for that. Now, none of that is the point of this. The point of this is LeBron James came back from the All-Star break. The Lakers lost to the Charlotte Hornets 2 nights ago in LA. First game back from the break. That was a game that had to be rescheduled because of the LA wildfires. They make that game up. Bron has an okay game, has a good game, but had not one, but 2 opportunities in the closing minutes of that game to knock down a 3-point shot that would have sent that game to overtime. He missed both of them. How does he respond to that? He comes out last night. He drops a 40 ball, old ass, on Portland. He wins the game, and he becomes the first player in the history of the NBA to have multiple 40-point games after turning 40 years of age. Nobody's done it, not even Mike.
That would be because Michael Jordan at that age he was not very good.
Washington was not very good.
Yeah, he was not very good.
I mean, he was still Mike mentally.
That probably bothers some people. I mean,
wasn't Mike physically.
He had diminished to the point where people were going, please stop playing because you're hurting your legacy. They're not really saying that about LeBron. I'm just saying.
You're not wrong.
I'm just saying.
So here's the thought, the takeaway I had last night after I got done watching the Four Nations face-off final, laying my sweet little head down to sleep, scrolling around the interwebs, and watching LeBron get a 40 burger. I am very disappointed in LeBron's decision-making process leading up to the ASG. I have been beyond impressed by what LeBron James is doing at 40 years of age. I was disappointed in a couple of days of LeBron this season, but overall, LeBron James at 40 years old, you should be watching him. Even if you don't like him, you should be watching him because what he's doing right now is beyond special. Over the last 2 games that he has put up 40, Luka Doncic has largely been a non-factor. 14 points, I believe 7 boards and 6 assists is his average stat line since he became a Laker. Now, those numbers are going to be a little bit diminished because those first couple of games as a Laker, he was on limited minutes. He was on a minutes restriction. Last night, he played 33 minutes. He had 14, 6, and 8, right at his average as a Laker in 33 minutes of action. And there was a lot of standing around for Luka Doncic. And people were panicking. Like, uh-oh, they don't have a two-man game. LeBron can't share the ball. Guys, he's been a Laker for what? 2 weeks now? He's played what? 4 games now? 5 games now with this team? You are putting him up against not just a 40-year-old LeBron James. You're just putting him up against LeBron James. LeBron at 40 is turning in a season that most guys will be thrilled to turn in at 25, 26.
There's also the fact that when LeBron is on it, you just get out of the way. Most of the time, he's dishing the ball out. He's sharing with people. That's what he's done his entire career. But when he has a game where he's on fire, the best thing to do is feed him the ball and get out of the way.
I don't disagree. I will say this. LeBron James, in the way that he's playing basketball in 2024-25, when LeBron James has taken over a game, more often than not, it's because nobody else on that team is. LeBron James wants to be an assist guy. He's averaging like 11 to 14 assists right now per game. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was going to say, and Frank points this out, I think you may have looked at the stats wrong, but Luka didn't play.
Okay, okay. Then the Charlotte game, 33 minutes, 14, whatever it was.
Luka, I think, had a shoulder or something. Yeah.
Well, is probably smoking the hookah and drinking the beer, as the 25-year-olds do.
It was Thursday. That's what I think that's.
So it was. You're right. Thank you very much, Frank. It was the Charlotte game, 33 minutes, 14 points, average stat line. I think it drives the point home even more. They're going to figure that thing out. I said on Tuesday night on BetMGM, Lakers are not just making the playoffs. Lakers will host a playoff series. Maybe just one, but they will because they're going to figure this out. I saw the panic last night about Luka Doncic. Relax. He's playing along with LeBron James, who at 40 years of age, has become the first player to put up multi-40 burgers after turning 40. The guy is still one of the best 10 players in the NBA. So is Luka Doncic. It's going to take some time for them to figure out what they are. But as long as Braun is going to keep putting up 40 burgers until Luka figures out what the organic place in this offense is, until JJ Redick figures out how to drop on the diagram the best way for these guys to play a two-man game, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. And if you're not watching LeBron, even if it's because you dislike him, like I said, I was super disappointed in him last weekend. If you're not watching LeBron in the season that he's having at 40 years of age, I am saying, quite frankly, you're missing out on history. That's just objective. Don't care how you feel about him personally, on the floor, off the floor, whatever. If you're not watching him right now, you are missing out on a historic NBA season. He is still him. Speaking of NBA, Victor Wembanyama in the news. We're going to talk about him in the next segment, the water cooler cheat sheet. We'll talk about the Four Nations face-off final as we run through the top 3 sports stories coming up next. Segment after that, Doug Irwin, the CBO, Chris Lewis, the president of the Greenville Triumph, are going to join us on our live stream. I told you yesterday, the USL looking at propping up a league that would rival MLS and would engage in promotion relegation, which I think is wonderful for America and for the Greenville Triumph. Well, the Greenville Triumph are part of that league, and Chris and Doug will come by to tell us what that means for that team and for us as a community. And after that, the show's yours, kids. Whatever you want to get to, whatever you want to talk about, we'll get to it. I'm Rob Brown. Now, sit back, relax, enjoy the smooth, seductive stylings of Alonzo Sports Flash.
Yeah, I don't dispute truths. Team Canada knocked off Team USA last night 3-2 in overtime to claim the first ever Four Nations face-off championship. Canadian goalkeeper Jordan Bennington stopped 31 of 33 shots, including a pair of shots from American captain Austin Matthews in the overtime period. Seconds later, Connor McDavid found himself wide open in front of the net for the game winner. Sam Bennett and Nathan McKinnon scored the regulation goals for Canada, matched by a pair from Brady Tkachuk and Jake Sanderson. South Carolina's women's basketball team got back on the winning side last night, recording a 40-point, 95-55 win over Arkansas. The Gamecocks were led by Joyce Edwards, 18 points, and Malaysia Fulwadi's 15. Tune in tomorrow morning at 11:30 as the Furman Paladins take on the VMI Keydets. It's Furman versus VMI right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball. It's us. It's the fan. Upstate. As far as Luka and LeBron goes, we don't have a big enough sample size to see what it's going to be like because of injuries to either one of them. It's a great question, Wesley, and it wouldn't shock me if that's not on the horizon. He is in LA now, although, you know, Dallas probably pretty big in the marketing also, but even if he did, he wouldn't be able to advertise that because you can't advertise that on the radio
What's that?
or TV, I don't think. Hookah.
I don't know, honestly, what the rules to that
It's
are.
I mean, is it nicotine based?
Yes.
Well, so I believe you cannot advertise that on the radio.
Okay.
I think we get those emails periodically that say you can't do that.
Okay. Very seductive sports flash. They're all seductive. Canamaniac.
Give us a call, and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit. 800-384-78.
HOTTOGO. Dang it. I'm not happy with me either.
Wow.
I know.
No. Well, I don't believe this is real, but if it is, I just sent you something on X. It'll only take a couple seconds to look at it. It's like 7 seconds long.
All right, LeBron, a 40 ball. Hold it. Hold it. Hold it.
We turn to AmericanEagle.com. They made the impossible seem easy.
Hold it.
Challenges like pros. Check out the Blue Dot Fight website to see AmericanEagle.com's amazing work in action. Need the best in website and digital marketing solutions? AmericanEagle.com is your go-to. They've been a game changer for us, and they can be for you too. Visit AmericanEagle.com or call 877-WEB.
That, come on.
If you look in the background, there are other robots back there. My first thought is this is wrestling or something, but what if that's real?
I mean, that robot gives up real easy by being grabbed by the collar, you know? I also wonder if somebody programmed like an iRobot protocol in there, you know? One of the 3 objectives is you can't harm humans, but somebody wrote in a code that's like, unless they harm you first.
That is always the problem I have with this stuff. I'm going to take it as real. I believe it's real. May have to talk about that tomorrow night.
Here we go. Hour number 2 of the Rob Brown Show goes now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Rob, the great one, Lonzo, and you. What are we laughing at? What am I missing here?
They put up purple and old.
Old ass.
that was pretty good.
That is pretty good. That's a good headline. I gotta say, the folks that do the headlines in the AM for ESPN have been on a heater lately. Honestly, it's been pretty good. They've had some winners. All right, We have got a lot to get to on the radio broadcast this morning. Before we do, I will tell you that the phone lines are open for you this AM. The phone line to call in and get on the air is 844-326-3663. 844-FANFONE is that number. That is also the number to text the radio broadcast, 844-326-3663. Let me make your life a little easier for you here, because that's what Lonzo and I are here for, to make your lives better. And I got to say, we're pretty good at it. Just make us a contact in your phone, okay? Just make a contact in your phone. You can call it the Fan Upstate. You can call it the Good Radio Station. You can call it Buttholes with Microphones. I don't care what you call it, but just make us a contact in your phone and then add the number.
That show's no longer on this station.
What's up, everybody? Happy Monday morning. It's Buttholes with Microphones here on the Fan Upstate.
It's the day after Friday Eve.
844-326-3663. Add that number, and that way you can just make a text thread. And anytime you want to text us, you just go to the contact, open up the thread, and drop a text in there. Like the texter who said during the break, LeJon Bames is a hack, such a diva. You know, I'm kind of glad you brought that up. I'm kind of glad you brought that up. Last night, Inside the NBA on TNT was live. Chuck Barkley's on that show. I'm a fan. Chuck Barkley was asked about the concept of somebody being the face of the league. And Chuck said this.
Can I say one more thing? Yeah. I saw some guys on another network the other day talking about face of the league. And I was so annoyed just sitting around watching. And, you know, Jerry started with Kevin Durant was talking about Wemby being the face of the league. First of all, you don't give anybody the face of the league. Am I right, Shaq? Shaq took being face of the league. When Magic Johnson and Larry Bird came in, they're like, we're the new sheriffs in town. Shaq took it. Kobe took it. LeBron took it. Steph took it. But I get so annoyed when I hear these guys like, you don't give somebody something. That's one of the problems we got. These idiots won't play in the All-Star game. We've given them so much. They don't have no respect for the history. But you don't give anybody the face of the game. You take it. Yeah.
I like that take. I agree with that take entirely from Chuck, but it's what he said at the end of that take that to me was the loudest part of that take. He said, this is a result of how much we give these guys. That's why nobody wants to play in the All-Star game, because we give them so much that it gets to the point that they don't feel like they have to earn it. You've heard the concept of the face of the league. I don't care what you say. LeBron James is the face of the NBA. Before him, Kobe Bryant was the face of the NBA. Before him, Michael Jordan was the face of the NBA. Before him, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird were the faces of the NBA. Shaq, for a couple of years, was the face of the... There's been faces of the NBA. I'm not saying that the concept of the face of the blank doesn't exist. It very does. But I think the point is, all of these guys, and I do include LeBron in this part of the conversation, they went out and took that title. But LeBron, when he took that title, and you can make the argument of where he took it and where you no longer agreed with it if you think he is a, quote, hack, end quote. You can say it's when he left to go to Miami and build a super team. You can say when he left Cleveland a second time, although I do think we give Cleveland a pass for their bad ownership. The second time Rob was there, you can say it's when he went to the Lakers. You say whatever you want to say. LeBron James has been celebrated for the face of the league it's so long and has become such a celebrity outside of the basketball world that to some degree, and I've said this before, to some degree, I kind of hold us accountable for the attitude, mentality, whatever you want to call it, of LeBron James. I kind of hold us accountable for that. When you allow someone to feel as if they are bigger than the game, don't be shocked and or surprised when they start to act like they are. And I think there is, as much as I am still a fan, still a stan, whatever the young people say nowadays, of LeBron James, I do think there is an element to that. I do think he has been considered the face of not just the NBA, honestly, the face of basketball internationally for so long that it's in his head that that's what he is. And if I'm the face of a thing, don't I deserve special treatment? I mean, I'll keep it a buck with you. I think everybody in the world except Lonzo is to some degree guilty of that. If you get placed in a position where you are the face of the thing, you may get to a point where you kind of start to feel like, well, if I'm that important to this thing, that you will call me the face of that thing.
Wow, are you saying I'm not good enough to be the face of something?
No, I'm saying even though,
I mean, because
buddy, you're clearly a face of the league. Your face is on the building, all right? But what I'm saying is Lonzo is above that. Lonzo gets named the face of the fan upstate. He works even harder. Most people aren't that. Most people aren't that. The one thing I will say about that, and then we'll do an abbreviated water cooler cheat sheet. I'll say this. You guys seen LeBron James with his shirt off lately? That dude looks like he's 24. That dude's jacked. He's cut. He's shredded. He's ripped. Whatever you want to say. The one thing I'm not going to take is anybody saying, "Oh, the work ethic's not there." Have you seen the way LeBron James is built? You seen the way he's cut? You seen the shape he's in right now? You know any other 40-year-olds on planet Earth that look like he looks right now? Not really. I don't. I certainly don't. The one thing I will not critique is dude doesn't have a work ethic. Now, you may think that he feels entitled, but let's be real. Have we as a country, or at least we as a basketball fan base, not to some degree, got a little bit of the blame of that because we have treated him that way for so long. When you treat somebody as if they are the king, don't be shocked when they call themselves a king and act like a king. Am I right? Hey, you got a little over 51 minutes until you got to be to work. Little over 51 minutes till you got to clock in, lock in, and be a productive member of society, even though it's Friday and you don't want to. Which means you are at some point going to be taking a break, which means you are at some point going to be walking down that long hallway and going to talk sports with your coworkers. And if you're gonna go talk about sports, you got to know what's going on, right? And if you got to know what's going on, you need somebody to tell you what's going on. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're here for. That's why we do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
Friday, gotta get down on Friday. No.
Here we go.
welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It's the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports this morning. When you do, this is what you will be talking about. Let us get to item number 1. In case you missed it last night, or in case you missed us talking about it this morning, the Four Nations Face-Off Hockey Tournament had its finals last night. The gold medal championship, whatever you want to call it. Team Canada, Team USA. This one on the home soil of the red, white, and blue. But the game was taken home by the red and white. The blue left alone. Team Canada, 3-2 winners in overtime over Team USA in the Four Nations Face-Off final contest last night. It was honestly real good basketball game, or a hockey game. Got basketball in the brain. Real good hockey game last night. The Americans just a little bit out of sorts, a little bit panicky, started throwing stuff, spraying and praying down to the attacking third. They just kind of got out of their game a little bit. Canada did not play the most elite hockey game I've ever seen, but they didn't have to. I think Canada realized about 8 minutes into this game, the Americans aren't themselves tonight. They're making mistakes tonight. They are chasing the puck when they are on defense. On the offensive side, they're just kind of chucking the puck down to the other end and hoping that they can beat us down there. We don't have to be special. We just got to be good enough. And the Canucks were. That includes Jordan Binnington, their goalkeeper, faced 33 shots, made 31 saves, including a pair of absolute bleep missiles from Captain Austin Matthews of the Red, White, and Blue in the overtime period. My dude put on the cape and turned into Superman, did Jordan Binnington. 31 stops on 33 shots. The Americans had a goal recorded by Brady Tkachuk, who has been excellent in this tournament, had a goal recorded by Jake Sanderson, had plenty of other opportunities, but just could not find the back of the net against Binnington. Again, dance with the girl that brought you. I don't think the Canucks did anything special to get the Americans out of sorts. I don't think that they did anything to change their defense in a way that allowed or forced the Americans to be special or to not be special or whatever you want to call it. I think the Canucks just said, hey, look, at the end of the day, they're going to make the mistakes if we let them. So let's take advantage of them. And they did, and it was more than good enough. Team Canada takes home the Four Nations Final Cup and gold medals last night. I think it was a spectacular tournament. I think it was an electric tournament. I think it was a tournament that put on display for the world how good the sport of hockey is if you give it a chance. That's what I think. And I'm standing on that. Item number 2. We mentioned this in the last segment. I feel that it is worthy of being mentioned again. LeBron James in a 110-102 Lakers win over the Portland Trailblazers last night without Luka Doncic. Thank you very much, Frankie. Without Luka, drops a 40-piece on the Blazers. That 40-piece makes LeBron the first player in the history of the National Basketball Association to have multiple 40-point games after turning 40 years of age. LeBron James turned 40 back in December. Since then, he has put 2 40-point burgers up on the scoreboard. The Lakers are 2-0 in those contests. I said it a few minutes ago. I'll say it again. LeBron James is having a historic season. You don't have to like him. I don't really care how you feel about him personally. If you're a basketball guy, even if you hate LeBron, I'd suggest you tune into some Laker games. And I'd suggest you do it more and more regularly because not only is his season historic, but I'm going to tell you now, Luka Doncic is going to round into shape. Luka Doncic is going to find his chemistry within this Laker team. And when LeBron and Luka get on the same page, because I don't believe that they are yet, but they've only played, 3 games together so far. When those two get on the same page, this Lakers team is going to be good. It just is. We'll talk some more NBA later on in the show. Let us get to item number 3. We got about 2 minutes left before I got a call for the music to go out for a break. That's not enough time to play sound and talk about it, is it? That would delay the show. That would make the show unbearable for fans.
You wouldn't want to do that when you have guests coming up. I'm just going to point that out.
I know, because if you played sound at this point, you'd have to move everything back. The fans would be upset. It would delay the show.
Here's the 0-1 pitch. Inside, 1 ball, 1 strike.
The other thing we discovered about Max Muncy is that Dave Roberts had a discussion with the guys about the ABS and how we're going to challenge and everything else. However, everybody had the green light except one. He's at home plate right now. They're being Max Muncy.
And he was told not to challenge, and he just challenged.
Yeah. So here we go.
The Cubs challenged that one, so it wasn't Max, so he's off the hook.
Yeah.
Home plate umpire Tony Randazzo. Here's what it looked like. So it was a strike. So the Cubs challenged it. I'm guessing that it was the catcher, Reese McGuire.
Well, good. We see it in the very first inning.
First inning of the first spring training game of 2025, Cubs and Dodgers. Opening frame, we get our first spring training challenge using the ABS. It took 16 seconds That's what we added. And oh, by the way, it was a successful challenge. It was called a ball. The ABS showed on the scoreboard it was very clearly a strike. 99% of the baseball was in the zone. Successfully challenged, it added 16 seconds to the game. 16 seconds it added to the baseball game. I needed one challenge to show that I was right. It's not going to delay the game. Everything's great.
All right.
It was amazing.
16 seconds. How many people in it are up during an inning? There are 9 innings. I mean, it's going to start to pile up.
16 seconds it took. 16 seconds. If both teams use if we do that 8 times, it's going to add what? 3.5 minutes to a baseball game? If 3.5 minutes is what causes you to stop watching a baseball game, you weren't watching the baseball game. You just weren't.
Rob Brown hates humans.
Rob Brown likes accurate calls in sports. Rob Brown also likes the Greenville Triumph. Doug Irwin, CBO. Chris Lewis, president. Join us next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
All over Lockwood. Not mentioning anything about snow. So, were you being sarcastic, or did you?
No. Very much this morning. It popped up on both my apps and on the little computer warning doodad thinger.
Yeah, that's a scientific term. I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called. All right, guys, we're going to step out for just a few seconds while we get Chris and Doug in the slot. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Doodad.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hi there. Morning.
How are the boys?
A little sleepy and slightly depressed, but
What, Chris? You stay up? You stay up too late?
yeah, apparently.
All right, let's talk. I don't know, not hockey. I feel like I've had enough.
I like the hockey jersey though, there, Robert.
Welcome back to Rob Brown Show on your radio, the Fan Upstate. I don't know that the next, say, 13, 14 minutes of this radio program is going to be hockey free. I know that if it's not, it's going to take a very somber tone, because joining us now on the radio program are a pair of gentlemen that have been friends of the show and friends of mine on and off the air, and two gentlemen that I had the pleasure and privilege of watching the Team USA Team Canada game with last night. The president of the Greenville Triumph, Chris Lewis, the CBO of the Greenville Triumph, Doug Irwin, joining us here on the show. I'm going to make it 45 seconds, fellas. I'm sad. I wanted that one a lot.
Yeah, that was I don't know. I'm a bit stitious, so I was worried for that there was a bit of 2010 vibe with winning in the in the quote group round, and what that meant in 2010 when Sidney Crosby ended our gold medal hopes in overtime, and last night ended up kind of heading down that same path, because somehow Jordan Binnington figured out how to stop a puck in a big spot, and the puck went the other way and ended up in our net because somehow we couldn't find the best player in the world all alone in front of our goal.
Hey, Doug, maybe don't leave Lionel Messi open in front of the net, eh?
That seems like a good strategy that we should have learned in 2010 if Crosby did it, and then you get the next iteration of Sidney Crosby open in front of the net 15 years later.
All right, let's talk soccer, because I have optimism and hope in the landscape of soccer. The reason that we are having Doug and Joe, here on the radio program is because, fellas, Doug and Chris, I'm an idiot. Listen, I stayed up late last night too, okay? I did. I told you when I left. I regret this already. Obviously, because we are now inside of just a couple of weeks away to the kickoff of the Greenville Triumph season. We will come to that here in just a couple of minutes. But a handful of days ago, a report started circling around that the USL, which is the league structure of which the Greenville Triumph are members, is floating the concept of creating another league at the top of their pyramid, and a league that they would consider to be a potential rival for MLS. That's exciting enough for me as it is. Competition, to me, is a good thing. The exciting thing about it, however, fellas, is the concept of having promotion and relegation, as most of the major European leagues do, which means that teams would be able to move up and eventually, with enough success, move into that top league of the USL. I want to start this conversation, and I'll let you guys go in whatever order you want to go in, by simply asking the question, number one, how much have you guys heard about this from inside channels that you can share with us? And number two, if it comes to fruition, what impact might that have on the Greenville Triumph within the USL pyramid structure?
Well, Rob, I'll start, and then Chris, I'll let you talk about the impact. Yeah, I think one of the things that Chris and I appreciate is, I wouldn't say we know all the ins and outs, but the league, both to us and then into to the media recently, haven't shied away from the idea of it. And I think I respect that off the bat, because normally when you ask any league executive, at any level, any sport, anything about a major competition change, it's mum's the word. And the league, has mentioned this in interviews as recently as yesterday, the president of the league. So it's something that is openly discussed, and I think the league is openly interested in, if the teams want it. And I think one of the biggest stumbling blocks so far has been, some of these larger teams that are MLS-sized markets that are playing in the USL, that have been worried about relegation, and I totally understand that. There are a handful of these teams that are actively even though they're in the USL, have actively or are actively in potential MLS exploratory discussions. So it'd be very damaging to their business model. So I think getting the opportunity for some of those leagues and some of the new some of those clubs and some of the new prospective markets to have more of a cushion between relegation to the third tier with a new league has helped already advance that discussion. So it's encouraging to see how bullish a lot of people at the league office are on the prospect of it, and certainly a lot of the teams, Chris.
No, for sure. And to kind of build on that, Rob, we've heard about ProRel for probably 2 years now. It came up a couple of years ago in a league board of governors meeting that we were in. There was what I'd call robust conversation about it. And it just kind of, we had to set it aside because we got to a point in the conversation where because this was a mixed group of championship and League One governors. And we had to set it aside because it just wasn't getting anywhere. So now you fast forward, and there's been conversations along the way within League One circles, amongst presidents, amongst governors, with the league, etc. And to what Doug said, the league did a real good job of keeping this under wraps until they wanted it out, which hasn't historically always been the case with League One in particular. There was a call where primary owners, so Doug and I weren't even on this call. It was Joe on this call, and they let the primary owners know what the plan was, and then literally hours before the announcement came out, like Doug and I found out. We were just recently at a meeting where we talked about it. We were able to ask some questions about it, and I think the immediate impact is this. It's, I heard you while I was driving into the office yesterday talking about it. It's being talked about. It's all over The Athletic. It's in the social media channels and those circles. And it's creating conversation about the game. It's getting people to think about what could something other than the norm that we know, at least in the US, be. And it provides an interesting business proposition from League One all the way up to whatever they're going to call this, whether it's USL Premier or what have you. But it adds that element that I guess the real soccer, the people that have followed the sport closely and have allegiances overseas and those kinds of things, it introduces that kind of concept and something that they really can relate to over here. And yeah, there'll have to be some education to some things, as this develops. But it's a really cool element, and I think it'll be real interesting to see how it progresses now that it's out there. Because the cool thing is that it's out there, and we don't have to do this with vagaries and talk behind the scenes.
Yeah, no top secret plan. I want to go back to something that you said, Doug, because this was something I thought about after the show yesterday. The initial reaction, I'm all in for. I still am right now, but it makes sense that teams, whether they would be teams that are currently in USL Championship or potentially new teams that could be added, top level teams, whatever, it would make sense that big teams wouldn't be in love with the idea because relegation is relegation. That is, that there's a reason that the structure, the sports landscape is the way it is here versus in other continents. At the same time, I got to assume teams like the Greenville Triumph would be huge fans of this idea because it would be a way that you guys could drive up the stakes and the value the same way big teams could say we would lose value. The question mark here is, would there be enough support at smaller club levels, like in Greenville, like in Chattanooga, like in Asheville, that would offset the hesitation from some of big clubs to where you go, hey, sorry about you, big clubs, but what's good for the goose is good for the gander. There's enough support in the small clubs wanting the opportunity that we feel like it's worth the risk that we put you under. Is there that much support from the smaller clubs to drive this forward?
Yeah, it's a great point, Rob. I think it's easy for us to sit in our chair and say we're for it because to us, at least initially, it's only promotion, right? We're in that bottom pyramid or bottom tier of the pyramid of professional soccer in America. I know amongst our league mates there is a ton of support for the concept, but it's not just it's also easy to say that because we're at the bottom of the period. I think bullishly a lot of our clubs feel like we can compete with the championship, and we have competed, and in many cases have beat the championship. And that's no slight to the championship. It's if anything, it's just credit to U.S. soccer and all these communities that have good clubs. And one of the stepping stones, I don't want to get on a tangent too much, to this has been League One owners wanting to create the Jägermeister Cup to give us a chance to play these championship clubs, which we will get this year. Last year was the first year of the cup, and we just played it within our league. But we were hopeful that the championship would join, and they're joining this year. But I think that you'll find unanimous or near unanimous support in Chattanooga, Statesboro, Charlotte Independence for the concept. But I think the surprising thing is how many people in the championship support it, because yes, there's the prospect of relegation, but there also is all the intrigue, value, opportunity that comes with the added eyeballs that Pro Rel would bring. So yes, in the championship and this new league, you're risking more, but man, you're also creating a lot more fans, and that's going to help us all.
Has there been, Chris, any discussion that we're aware of? Because I know it is early in the conversation. I know there's plenty of distance between here and this potentially becoming a reality. But has there been any discussion about interest with media partners? Obviously, this idea is only going to float if there's a way to get it on TV, get it out there in the public eye, get people to support it, etc. Has there been any conversation? They had a good working relationship with ESPN to carry USL League One games on ESPN Plus, etc. I've seen championship games being played on ESPN, the channel, etc. Is that a little further down the line, or is that kind of a piece of the conversation as it stands today?
I guess I'd answer that, Rob, with both. It's certainly the media conversations and building out that aspect of our business has been something that from the League One level specifically, we've been banging the drum for years now. One of the real cool things with League One is that there's a real sense, like it's very fraternal. There's a real sense of collaboration. We compete on the field, but we know that it's, rising tide lifts all boats, and we all need to be viable and sustainable. So how can we help and push each other? And as importantly, if not more, how can we as a collective group push the league to do things that are going to bring us to a new level and to create that measure of sustainability and viability? So, the league is always having conversations in the background about media. There's an ongoing effort to get more of what I guess I'd call traditional media deal, although with the MLS, Apple TV, like what is traditional now, right? But there is a push to that to move, not off of streaming, because you're always going to have that, but to have more of the over the air kind of broadcasting going on. This has certainly sparked some more conversation and maybe some more substantial and in-depth conversation with the league because of what this prospect holds. And oh, by the way, the league also launched a Division I Women's Pro League back in August, and just in general with the growth and the path that women's professional sports have taken, that's created its own set of conversations that have been interested media partners have been talking with the league about. So I think there's a real opportunity here for the whole USL ecosystem to be brave and to go out and do something that could significantly, again, at the risk of sounding dramatic, be historical for what this sport is and what this sport means in the U.S.
Dramatic is what we do here on the show, Chris. You know this. All right, I got another minute or two here with Doug Irwin, CBO from the Greenville Triumph, Chris Lewis, president of the club. The next question, and I think this is the biggest one, fellas. So if you both want to have a take before we move on, I'm happy to hear them both. I want to hear them both. What does this mean for Greenville? My thought yesterday, I talked about it. This is a team that since its inception coming into year 6 has been consistently a playoff team, has been consistently a championship threat, has consistently under John Harkes, now under Rick Wright, put forward very good football teams, has had a ton of success, which leads me to believe that if this model was enforced today, Greenville would be a team that would be a promotion threat right out of the chute to move up to Champions League. And if there's another league above that, you'd like to think a couple more years of doing things the right way and having those additional resources to invest, you guys would be able to follow that same model. Diesel and I've had the conversation. Could Greenville have a professional team? And my answer for a long time has been, I don't know if we have the infrastructure. I don't know if we have the support. The Greenville Triumph have the support. The stadium's coming. The infrastructure seems to be well on its way to development. Is this a possible path towards Greenville having its first genuine top-tier professional sporting team, that being the Greenville Triumph, if this comes to fruition?
Yes is the short answer. It's the path. It's a path that has not existed, like this through competition in American sports. And it's something that we welcome. And as we look to build the stadium, we factor in, what does it look like at the next level in terms of capacities and, what we need. So there will be clubs that sit it out effectively, I think, in terms of how they put a team together. I don't think we will be one of those that sits it out. We will be gunning for promotions. I think Chris would back me up on that, knowing what it could mean for the business.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at our club historically on the pitch, we've always been in a position that if there was promotion, that we'd go up. From the time the Irwins began this whole journey, one of the first conversations Joe had with the league when he was talking about, becoming an owner and establishing the club here was, well, why do we have to talk about League One? We're every bit the market that, that Charlotte is, because they were up there at that time, or Charleston is. Why can't Greenville be in the championship? And it was kind of like, well, this is what we're trying to do. And he bought in. And again, I think the league feels this way, and our colleagues and even teams in the championship feel like our players, et cetera, feel like we do things very much like a championship club does. So I think certainly that opportunity, with obviously the stadium project in Malden, continuing to move forward, there's opportunity there to do that. And if there's a step beyond championship at some point, and we feel our business model can sustain it and is ready for that, then, this was kind of the mantra that Rick had with the team coming down the stretch of last season and into the playoffs. Why not us?
I like it. Chris Lewis is the president of the Greenville Triumph. Doug Irwin, the CBO, both of them friends on and off the air. Gentlemen, appreciate it. You may go back to bed and sulk further now if you wish.
I'm going to go pour some Cheerios and cry in them now.
Yes, I was thinking, I thought you were going to finish that sentence with bourbon, but I respect it either way. Fellas, appreciate you guys. Looking forward very much. Going to be a big supporter of this project because I think it'd be good for all of us. See you guys next time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us on, guys.
Chris Lewis, Doug Irwin, Rob Brown, and Lonzo back after this. Excellent work, gentlemen. You're both radio broadcast professionals. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Obviously, I'm saying this in front of the millions and millions of fans, but if we get any updates that you guys feel comfortable sharing with the community, obviously let me know, because I said yesterday, and I'll say it again today, I am going to do my best to be the biggest media fan supporter of this idea moving forward. And if we can utilize this show as a foundation to do that, I'm absolutely going to. So you guys obviously know already. I know the commitment to being an excellent community partner. That involves communications, guys. Holler at us.
We will. Matt, and I think, again, it kind of what I said, like what's so good about it is the league is so much like, even though they're still playing it close to the vest-ish, they're a lot more open with it than leagues
Yeah.
should be in this position. So that affords us the ability to be more candid with it too, which I appreciate from them. So we're definitely happy to talk about it anytime. And I'd love to, Rob, as we get into the season here in a couple weeks and you start having some players on, I think, I'd love to get their perspective as well. From Evan and Brandon, a couple of guys that have been in the ecosystem for a while. So
For sure. Well, I know we're a couple weeks out. I will be getting with you guys because I know we want to get back to having a weekly segment in some time, and I assume that this is going to be an ongoing conversation along with footy on the field. So let's make sure it happens, fellas.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Boys, I appreciate it. Go back to sleep. Take a nap. It's totally legal. No one's stopping you.
Thanks, pal.
See you, Rob.
See you guys. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Thanks again to Chris Lewis and Doug Irwin, the president and CBO of the Greenville Triumph, respectively. Look, I auditioned for this job 5 years ago. As a matter of fact, we're a week away from the 5-year anniversary of the debut of the. Actually, Lonzo, technically.
Thank you for not counting every show.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Technically, if you want to be technical, next Tuesday will be the 5-year anniversary of the start of the show, but I did that first week from down in Florida before I officially moved up here the next weekend. The 1st of March will be the 5-year anniversary of this radio program. And I've told this story many times, so I'll keep it as short and sweet as I'm capable of. When I got my audition for this job, when I got the call, hey, we'd like you to come up and do a couple of shows and, let us get a feel for you. You get a feel of the market. Booked a flight, came up, booked an Airbnb over off of Stone Street downtown. I wanted to be close to downtown. I wanted to check out downtown. I was young, hip, and single back in the day. Wanted to see what downtown Greenville, South Carolina was all about. Booked an Airbnb. Flew in, picked up my rental car, went to the Airbnb to drop off my bag before I went out to party hardy. Got to the Airbnb, went in. First thing that I noticed when I walked in the kitchen was a big Greenville Triumph magnet on the fridge of the Airbnb. And it was obviously a soccer crest. So I'm like, oh, we got soccer here. Let me check this out. So I did and learned all about the Greenville Triumph. Unfortunately, it was just a couple of weeks before they started that season, so was unable to attend a match. But learned a bunch about him, got the gig, came down, started going to games the first season that I was here back in 2020. Now, that was COVID. So I was one of seven people in the stadium until later in the year when they were kind of able to start opening up the games for fans again. And I can say that I have met the overwhelming majority of what I now call my circle at Triumph games. That's where I met most of the people that I am now friends with in the upstate of South Carolina. They have done a tremendous job of connecting with this community. I've said for a very long time, of all the teams that I have worked with in the 17 years that I've been in this industry, the two that are the best, and I mean this being very sincere, are the Greenville Swamp Rabbits and the Greenville Triumph. Those two teams, both of whom I have grown very close with as a broadcaster and become friends with their front office administration of both. Frankly, had representatives of both teams at my wedding in September. As I have grown my relationship with those two teams, I can tell you that of all the teams that I've worked with between Pensacola, Mobile, Jacksonville, New Orleans, of all the places that I've ever lived, worked, broadcasted, etc., those two teams care more about community impact, being good community members, than any of the rest of them. The reason I'm excited about the Triumph and this potential league upgrade is the fact that even when certain elements of the community have pushed back against the Greenville Triumph, and they have, whether it's the new stadium or making special exemptions for different things, whatever. And I'm not saying that in like a negative way. They've all had their political and or philosophical reasons for doing so. Some of them good, some of them understandable, even if I don't agree. Some of them I understand and agree with, and some that are philosophically, in my opinion, bad reasons. Joe and Doug and Chris and the rest of that organization have always said, no matter what happens, community organization first. During that same period of time, as I have said before, there have been a few conversations that remain evergreen in the world of sports talk radio broadcasting, both nationally and in the market. One of the conversations that has been an evergreen topic that Diesel and I have had conversations about on the air when he and I shared a show together, off the air as we have tagged out, etc. One of the conversations that has come up routinely is, could Greenville, South Carolina end up being a location that has a top-tier professional sports team? And my answer has been, historically, no. No. The NHL is not coming here. The NHL is, I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, going to Atlanta, Georgia. They got a team in Raleigh, North Carolina already. They've got teams due south of us in Florida, a pair of them. We're not a viable NHL market, in my opinion. The NBA is not coming to Greenville, South Carolina. And if they did, it would require Greenville to build an NBA stadium downtown. Number one, I don't know that there's the room. I don't think it would fit the footprint of the Bon Secours Wellness Arena as is currently laid out. Number two, you know how, because we've talked about it a billion times, ownership groups at that level work. They would want a massive amount of money from the community to go back into their pocket for their resources that they would earn. Own. I'll say own. And just based on what we've seen with the interaction between the city, the community, and the Triumph, that ain't happening. So the NBA's out. Certainly not going to get an NFL team that is, 2 hours from Charlotte, 2 hours from Atlanta. Your best option for getting a professional sports club, frankly, is soccer. You've got a national championship team, two-time, right down the road in Clemson, South Carolina. Charlotte FC didn't really have the year they wanted last year. Still a playoff team in MLS. The Carolinas are, whether you like it or not, I would say the fastest growing soccer community maybe in the United States. There are bigger soccer communities, Portland, Oregon, Austin, Texas, et cetera, Seattle, Washington. But in terms of upward trajectory of the popularity of the sport in the area, the Carolinas are right there. And if you take out Charlotte, which obviously already has an MLS team, and you were looking, where could we put a professional soccer team that could build a following? Greenville, South Carolina is the most rapidly growing city. I believe it's still in the top 5 nationally, certainly in South Carolina. It's the perfect venue. Even with that, I've said for a while, I don't think you're getting an MLS team. Same reason with the NBA. You got a team in Charlotte, you got a team in Atlanta. Same with the NFL, team in Charlotte, team in Atlanta. I don't know that it would work. If a new league pops up and you end up with a team in the USL, let's say it's called USL Premier, you would have a team here. There is the potential for a team in Charlotte, the Independents, also a USL League One team. They could be promoted up to that top notch. But I would say it'd be a more difficult journey for them, as a younger club and a club that did not have the out-of-the-gate success that the Greenville Triumph have had, and a team that would be trying to directly compete with Major League Soccer, with Charlotte FC, owned by David Tepper, playing in an NFL stadium right there. I think Greenville's the more viable option. And on top of all of that, everything for the club is already here. Everything you need is already here. The leadership of that team has been excellent. I'm not saying that to blow smoke. I have told Doug and Chris over time, straight to their faces, I don't love this decision, or I don't disagree. I don't agree with that, or this move's bad, or that player is not my guy, or whatever. I love the guys because they allow me to be honest as both a friend and a broadcaster. But the leadership of this team has been excellent. The addition of John Harkes as the head coach right out of the gate, the ability to talk an international legend to come be the coach of a brand new lower-level professional soccer club, gave that team a rocket strapped to their back to start. They have been a promotion target, if it existed, since the inception of the club. You got a 1 million-person market, so the fandom is here. You got a growing soccer community, thanks to Clemson, thanks to Charlotte, etc. So that's here. You've got the agreement to build the stadium up in Malden. That will debut in 2026. That's there. And there's enough room out there that it could be expanded and grown and developed if the popularity starts to grow. So it's in a spot that they would likely be promoted relatively soon if this happened. Greenville is one of the fastest growing communities. It is a soccer community, and it would be one of the most visited destinations of this new league, I would assume. People are coming here to vacation all the time. All the time. When I told people I was moving here to take this job, I can't tell you how many people said, I've been to Greenville. It's amazing. You're going to love it. That place is beautiful. The city's great. The surrounding community is great. The nature, when you point the car in any direction and go, it's all beautiful. A lot of people come here to visit, which means that when a soccer club from Kansas City in the USL League was to come here for a game, if we were a top-notch professional team, they'd bring a massive amount of people who would bring quite a bit of money to pump it into the community. That allows them to reinvest back into the team. That allows the team to continue to reinvest into itself. This is a big deal. So I said yesterday, and I'll say it again today. If this concept, this top-tier USL League, continues to develop, continues to form, and starts to shape up to be a genuine reality. Right now, again, as Chris said, yeah, it's in a solid idea format, but it's still in an idea format. If this idea continues to solidify, and if it gets to a point where it looks like this thing is like ready to go and it just needs the push, I am going to annoy you all by being its biggest cheerleader, its biggest supporter. I will be reaching out to the office and going, hey, what can I do as a broadcaster? What can I do to be involved, to get involved, to stay involved? What can I do to help? Because it's not about the league. It's not about promotion, relegation, becoming maybe something that is a bigger deal in American sports, which I hope it does. It's the only way you can punish bad owners. Sorry, talk about that later. But because of the fact that I genuinely believe the Greenville Triumph are in a position to become the first top-tier professional sporting team in this market. And I think if they do and they become successful, now we're on the sports radar nationally. And that's a good thing for everybody, in my ever so humble yet frequently correct opinion. Also, in my opinion, nobody on planet Earth reads a sports flash like Lonzo does.
Well, there are some guys who come close.
Hey, Carlos with a case.
South Carolina's women's basketball team got back on the winning side last night, recording a 40-point, 95-55 win over. That's a butt whooping. The Gamecocks were led by Joyce Edwards, 18 points, and Malaysia Fawali's 15 points, both coming off the bench. Bree Hall had 14, and Chloe Kitts had 10 with 13 rebounds tacked on. The Gamecocks are now 24-3 overall and 12-1 in conference, tied with Texas atop the league. LeBron James continues to set NBA records in his 20th season. James dropped 40 points in a 110-102 win over Portland. It was the second time James has scored 40 since turning 40 back in December, making him the only player in NBA history to do that. Tune in tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. as Furman Paladins take on the VMI Keydets. It's Furman versus VMI right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball, the fan Upstate. Hmm.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS for $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-497-8091. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Righty.
Our passion is
Do it, Kane. Listen, first game is March 9th, 8th? 8th, March 8th at Furman. Buddy, if you come out. See, that was a positive, buddy. That was buddy in a positive way.
There is no positive buddy.
There is.
There is no.
There is. I think you can buddy positively.
Unless your name's Buddy Healed or something like that. And even when they yell for his name, it probably sounds
See, I
negative.
feel that way about pal. I don't think you can pal somebody positive. I think you can buddy somebody positive.
Buddy,
What's up, buddy?
Buddy and pal go hand in hand.
Anyway, Kane, come out to a match. Come out March 9th. Come out to the match. I will show you why I am absolutely a big fan.
Everyone wants you to have a mat to stand on or something like that. You don't need one of those. You're not. I mean, I think you will trip over it. No offense.
None taken.
Unless
honestly,
it covers the entire floor.
Okay, so here's what I genuinely think about that, because I almost bought one yesterday, and then I'm like, let me see.
You
I
would have to
think
move it every single day.
I think that honestly, it would be because my ADHD brain kicks into overdrive about things. I honestly think if I get a mat, especially if I paid money for it, I genuinely believe I would actually stay more still. Like I would stay on the mat. I don't think I'd be walking off and onto it.
I mean,
that's just hyperfixation.
It's your money, it's your risk, but I don't think you would. And the first time you leave it in here, it will get
that
tore
would be
up.
the thing. And that was the one thing the one reason I haven't done it before is I'd have to pick it up and move it back and forth
Every single day.
like I have to do with the computer riser. I don't mind for the riser because it's not that hard to set up, but like the floor is way down there.
It
and
is.
I'm way up here.
You are.
Yeah. 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 Here we go.
All right, I'm going to need a little more enthusiasm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's better.
Thanks. I practiced. The Rob Brown Show going into hour number 3 here on The Fan Upstate. It is Rob Brown. It is the great one, Lonzo. And it is you. 844-326-3663. That is the number to call the broadcast. That is the number to text the broadcast. That is the number to be a part of the broadcast. Jump on board. I want to hear y'all's thoughts on last night's Four Nations face-off finals. How many of you, because I know there's got to be at least a couple. In fact, I know there's at least 2, because I got 2 texts during the game last night from people that said, I'm watching this game because of you. One of our buddy Thomas, P1 Thomas, who tweets the show on the reg, texted me like 10 minutes into the game. He's like, yo, I'm watching this game because of you. I did not text him back because it was like 11:15, 11:20 at night when that game ended last night. But I am going to call him today and be like, what'd you think? What do you think? As a non-hockey guy who was watching hockey, what'd you think? Are you hooked? Can I get you to come out to a Swamp Rabbit game? Can I get you to watch some NHL hockey? Can I get you more involved in this sport moving forward now that you got a, you got a little tasty taste? Because I'm curious. 844-326-3663 is that number. You can call us and let us know. You can text us and let us know. Did you watch? Is it out of the norm for you to have watched? And if you did watch, whether it's out of the norm or not, did you enjoy it enough that perhaps, perchance, maybe, hockey is something you might be interested in moving forward? We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. There's a couple more things I'd like to get to. We talked a little bit about LeBron James in the NBA. I want to get to that. I got some sound about another round of discussion about ownership of professional sports. And I think it takes a very interesting twist with the conversation that we had earlier today with Chris Lewis, president of the Triumph, Doug Irwin, CBO of the Triumph, and the potential for USL to develop a major league soccer rival, a USL Premier League, if you will, that could, if it happens, result in Greenville getting its first top-level professional team. And if you've ever wondered, could this location, if it continues growing at the exponential rate which it is, could it end up being a destination for the NHL, for Major League Baseball, for MLS, for whatever? The answer to me up until the last week has been no. And now the answer is yeah, no, absolutely. Because if the Triumph were to get promoted up to that top league and become a force in the soccer world, you better believe notice would be taken. All right, it is 8:04 in the AM. Let's get the audio blitz in here. Some of the best audio that we have heard over the past handful of days. I want to start with, let's start with this one, because I found this one very interesting. I was listening to it this morning, and I said, I wonder what Mark Schlereth has to say. And Lonzo said, who cares?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever thought, I wonder what Mark Schlereth has to say.
Well, you're about to find out, because he's still talking about the Super Bowl.
But I want to get back to what Cooper DeJean said about Patrick Mahomes.
Try to give our D-line as much time to get to the quarterback and switch up the picture on the quarterback and, make him have to play quarterback.
What he's saying in my mind is make you play quarterback, make you find the windows, make you, disrupt the routes and make you go through your progressions. Don't give you easy one-on-one targets. And you look at this zone defense. They had Patrick Mahomes faced 1 rep of man-to-man in that game. That's crazy to me. Now, part of that goes back to the coaching point I made about Andy Reid. When you if you're going to sit there and play 2 high safeties, and I go back to my own career, you play 2 high safeties. When I played for Mike Shanahan, he would be livid on the sideline. I mean, to the point of these guys think they can defend our running game in 2 high safeties. These arrogant, and he would go off on stuff like that. And we always used to say, we're going to run them out of that defense. And for the Kansas City Chiefs, they don't believe in running the ball.
What's your reaction to that, Zoe? There were two takes there. Number one, that the Eagles got to Mahomes by making him play quarterback, which if you go back, I gave you the 6 keys. One of them was keep Mahomes in the pocket, make him be a passing quarterback. Don't let him be a runner. Make him be a passing quarterback. And number 2 was the Eagles said, you can't run the ball. And Schlereth, to some degree, almost said, Andy Reid didn't believe in or trust the run game enough to establish it in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. What was your thought, your response to those two things?
I agree with the second point because I said they didn't run the ball enough. That was the first thing that I talked about after the Super Bowl was over. They didn't run the ball enough. And even if you can't run the ball, you can't set the play action up unless people believe you might actually run the ball. So those fakes, when you're faking like you're running the ball, if you don't run it some, they're not going to buy that. And the other thing about the quarterback, the problem with the quarterback was the offensive line. They shore that up this time. Next year, we might be talking about them winning another Super Bowl.
I think it's unfair. I don't think it's unfair. I went and dug up the numbers because I was curious. During the 2024-25 NFL regular season, the Chiefs averaged 25.2 rushing attempts per game, ranked 24th in the NFL. In the postseason, 3 games, they rushed the ball 106 times. That is an average of 35.3 times per game. However, what is interesting is non-quarterback rushes in the Super Bowl, 3. They had 3 non-Mahomes rushes in the Super Bowl. I mean, Schlereth's not wrong in his take about the Super Bowl. He's not wrong about his take in the regular season. But Kansas City did run the ball in the postseason. I mean, they did in the 2 games, the AFC divisional round and the AFC title game, to get to the Super Bowl. But I would point out that, as I said, was a necessity for the Eagles, and it was one of the green check marks we handed out after the game. The Eagles did not let the Chiefs jump out ahead to where they could establish the run. The Eagles jumped out ahead and made Kansas City play from behind, meaning they had to start relying on Mahomes. If they're going to start relying on Mahomes, now as the Eagles, I don't have to go attack the running backs anymore, right? Now I can play a base defense, which is the reason the Eagles had 0 blitzes in that game. 0 blitzes in the game means there's always somebody back to force Patrick Mahomes to, as was stated, play quarterback. So we'll see.
But it makes it sound like that we'll just let Pat Mahomes beat us. But when a 4-man rush is getting through almost every single time, it doesn't matter what quarterback's back there, they're going to have trouble. And the defensive line for Philadelphia really good, but they didn't win every game, which means that a couple teams figured out a way to stop it. And I bet those teams had really good offensive lines.
Not unfair. All right. Here's one that I genuinely like. There's a cat on Instagram that is a Dallas Cowboys fan. He sat down with his boo the other day. I don't know when this was, and I don't know if this was a skit or what. I found it hilarious. This cat sat down to watch an episode of his favorite TV show with his lady friend. But he was jumping on his phone, and she was not having it. She's like, yo, put your phone down, watch this show with me. That's why we're here.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said, get off your phone. We're watching a show.
Do you get off your phone whenever I'm watching football on the weekends?
But this is different. We're trying to spend quality time together.
Well, we could spend quality time together watching football if you weren't on your phone, so it seems like a little bit of a double standard.
Well, at least on our TV shows, we don't know what's going to happen. But when we watch the Cowboys, I feel like the same thing happens every year.
That's crossing the line.
I want you to know, when I started watching that for the first time, I was like, you know what? My man's got a point. Even if he's a Cowboys fan, power to the people. Appreciate you calling that out. That is a double standard. All right. If you're going to sit there and you're going to be on your phone when I'm watching TV, don't get on my butt when I'm trying to watch my phone while you're watching TV. But okay, she does have a good point. You make that lady watch Cowboys games, of course she doesn't want to watch football. You
Yeah,
kidding me?
I'm with you. I was ready to get a little heated about about the whole thing until the end, and she's right.
I was fitting to go full red pill incel and be like, my man's got a point. He's right. And then she's like, yeah, but you make me watch the Cowboys. And it's like, okay, never mind. She's right. She's right. The lady, another checkpoint for the ladies. Denny Hamlin hosts the podcast. We talked about the Daytona 500 earlier this week. The boys going racing in the ATL this weekend, which is not a super speedway, but it is super speedway-esque, which means that a lot of the same issues that popped up at Daytona, which is an emphasis on fuel management, less on speed, an emphasis on running clean, not on racing hard, are back in play this weekend at Atlanta. 15 laps to go. Joey Logano tries to get a pass on Ricky Stenhouse. Stenhouse blocks him. Logano wants to make another pass. They end up getting into each other, and they spin out like 7-8 dudes, including my pick to win it, Kyle Busch, who was very much using the Rob Brown Show bump to get himself up to his first Daytona 500 victory. Denny Hamlin was asked on his podcast, was that Ricky's fault? Was that Joey's fault?
Probably 65% the 47 and 35% the 22. Stenhouse made a very aggressive block to a lane that was going much faster. He realizes, okay, I'm in line. Whew, I'm in a safe spot. And the 22, more than likely, I think what happened with Joey is he got pissed off when he got chopped off. He said, okay, the next opportunity he leaves me a one car with, I'm sticking my nose in there, and I'm not lifting next time. To me, it just, the cooler heads didn't prevail in the situation.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said on Monday. I'm putting a bunch of it on Logano. I'm putting a bunch of it on Ricky Stenhouse. I thought that Logano, after getting blocked, should have backed it off. Should have got back in line and said, okay, not the time, not the place. Let me look for another angle to attack. And then instead what he did was drop the hammer down and go, look, if he takes me out, he takes me out, but I'm trying. I'm getting that spot. On the flip side, I thought that when Logano went for pass number 2, even if it was poor timing, he got Ricky. And Ricky should have let him have that spot. He wasn't having to get out of his draft, get out of his line. Kind of was what it was. He should have let him pass. And instead, Joey made a pass he shouldn't have made, but he made it successfully. Ricky threw a block he shouldn't have had to throw. He threw it poorly. They ended up taking out a bunch of different guys and effectively killing off the end of what, up till that point, was a pretty good run of traffic that I thought was going to lead to a phenomenal end of the race. Denny Hamlin said exactly what I said because I know tires. That's not as good. How about this one? Now I'm gonna save that one. I'm gonna go to this one. Let's go to here's one. Kylie Kelsey is the wife of Jason Kelsey. Obviously, Jason and Travis's podcast, New Heights, has become one of, if not the most listened to sports podcast in America. Kylie, who has ridden the rocket to celebritydom alongside her husband, Jason, and I got no problem with it because Kylie Kelsey's an entertaining person. On her podcast, a podcast that she had a special guest on, Jason Kelsey, he called her out on a food habit she has, and I'm curious how many of the rest of you are Team Kylie or Team Jason.
If you catch me eating any type of bagged item in public, Cheetos, chips, any of it, I will be dumping it into my mouth from the bag. First of all, cut out the middleman. Second, I didn't have an opportunity to wash my hands. My germophobia said dump it right in.
So you were dumping the Cheetos in even when it was a full bag of Cheetos?
1000%.
Who the hell do you do? No, you dump the end of it in once you can't fit your hand in there anymore.
No.
Where it's like all the crummies.
No, I know what you're saying, but no. Sometimes I will crunch up Doritos so that they slide out of the bag into my mouth in a nicer fashion.
But the Dorito whole chip is like the best part of opening up the bag. You have some very weird eating habits. Between that and cereal, I think you just are very misguided in a lot of your junk food eating habits.
Yeah, but you married me, so.
I did, yes.
Sucker.
She just doesn't want to get her fingers with the aftermath of Cheetos or Doritos. But Jason's absolutely right. You don't go bag to mouth until it's the last little bit.
So what was said here by Kylie Kelsey was that she is team, even when the bag is full, turn the bag upside down and just dump them down the gullet. Now, My initial reaction was what I assume most of your initial reaction was, which was, Kylie, no. No. And it's not even about like being a lady. Because I got to tell you, I appreciate a lady who's one of the fellas. My wife is. It's part of the reason I'm in love with her. Okay. It's more along the lines of like, that's just not how you do that. However, I am a fan of Cheetos as well. But right now,
All right.
I am super big.
I lost by doing that. So the name Ray will now be replaced by Creed.
Why? What'd Creed say? You guys suck?
Can we talk sports? He just went straight up Ray. And he wanted to talk about like Seattle football or something. So,
Seattle football, huh?
Yeah.
Big Seahawks guy over here.
Yeah. So the Ray Memorial Hotline needs to be the Creed hotline. Not a memorial because he's still alive, obviously, because he called. But
we'll be all right, Creed. I got plenty more sports in the chamber. Half of this entire segment has been sports so far, but that's okay. I'm going back to this. All right, Creed, you just hang with me for like another 60 seconds. What percentage of the population is taking a full bag of Cheetos and just upending it? What percentage of the it's one of those things that like, all right, if I really sit down and I think about it, a process, it kind of makes sense, right? I'm a big fan of Flamin' Hot Doritos, Flamin' Hot Cheetos. The problem with the Cheetos is that dust sticks to your fingertips like it's a chemical agent. Then you go wash your hands for 5 minutes, you still got that Cheeto dust on there. It stays there. Your fingers are stained orange until you like have a full whole shower, right? So when I really think about it, I'm like, okay, it kind of makes sense a little bit, especially with the smaller bags. Maybe not like the big bag, but like the smaller bag, the gas station bag, that kind of makes sense. On the flip side, even though it makes perfect sense, this feels like psychopathic behavior to me. It feels like wild behavior to me. I'm conflicted on this. I have seen people, though, that have taken to eating Cheetos with chopsticks out of the bag. So they're eating them one at a time, but they're not getting the finger dust. And I got to tell you, I think that's the solution. I think Cheetos with chopsticks is the way to play that game, honestly.
No. I mean, just put your hand in the bag. Eat
Yeah, but then
chips.
I got orange fingers for a month.
Swipe it on your pants,
I got Donald
dude.
Trump fingers for like a month after
This is
that.
America. I don't know if his hands are orange or not. So anyway, I'll just wipe it on your pants. Who cares?
I do. I don't have to.
I'm just trying to figure out what show on this station doesn't talk about things other than sports. I know, Rich Eisen has celebrities on. Wire to Wire talk about Purple Rain. So I just don't know what you can listen to on any sports station where they just talk straight up sports.
Full breakdown of the Seattle Seahawks draft strategy. No, we're not doing that. We're talking spring training, automatic balls and strikes when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Can we talk about Seattle football?
All right. I don't know why that bothered me.
It did bother you.
But it bothered me.
It rattled you.
Yeah, no, because because I want an example of a show that is the perfect show that talks only sports. I would like to listen to that show because I don't think that show exists.
Rattle Lonzo. I don't have the ability in every situation to not care. But when I do have the ability to not care, I take full advantage of it. Donovan, unfortunately, I will not be at Saturday's game. The stepfather-in-law's celebration of life is Saturday, so I will not be at Saturday's game. I will be at Sunday's game. I hope you have a fantastic time. I know it's going to be a tremendous night. That's Military Appreciation Night. It's going to be electric up in the well. It's going to be one of the bigger crowds of the year, too, which I'm super, super pumped about for the team.
just take our word for it. It's not just a savings page, right, with T-Mobile Credit. It's always value from all these other things that T-Mobile offers. T-Mobile has been such a saving for us.
Yeah, it kind of stood out. I'm not sure it was real accent either, but you know.
I was like, is Wolverine promoting T-Mobile now? Do. An epic trip.
This is why I shouldn't act out of anger, because I would come back with faces and heels. And then I would follow that up with Fanboy Friday. And just to mess with Kane.
Creed.
Whatever.
No, Kane's P1. He's in for everything.
We got like 10 Canes. It could have been a Kane saying he was
I
crazy.
haven't seen any of the other Canes in a while.
Yeah.
Disappointing. The
Sorry, I misrepresented Kane.
The Kane-averse.
It was Creed, and you know I shouldn't have a problem with being angry with Creed. So maybe that's where my real anger lies, because Creed makes me think of being left behind.
Can you take me higher? Creed and Nickelback are playing a music festival together with Our Lady of Peace, Lit. Oh God, who are the other ones? Like, it's in Wisconsin, and me and like Keegan, that little group of people were like, "Do we take a weekend off to go to the most butt rock concert of all time?" The Rob Brown Show, back on your radio, along with Heather Dinich in very sporadic moments of time.
Poof.
Rob Lonzo and you. We were going to do more of the audio blitz here, but Creed called, acting programming director, and said, you guys suck, and asked if we could talk about the Seattle Seahawks, I believe. So I'm going to talk about baseball. That feels better. Yesterday, spring training kicked off. The Chicago Cubs and the Los Angeles Dodgers played a game out there in the Cactus League out west. It was the first spring training game that featured the automatic balls and strikes system. The two teams played each other. It was the first inning of the game when the first automatic balls and strike system challenge was issued. There was a ball caught on the field, as you will hear in the sound clip. It was challenged by the catcher, and this happened.
Here's the 0-1 pitch. Inside, 1 ball, 1 strike.
The other thing we discovered about Max Muncy is that Dave Roberts had a discussion with the guys about the ABS and how we're going to challenge and everything else. However, everybody at the green line except one. He's at home plate right now. They're being Max Muncy.
And he was told not to challenge, and he just challenged.
Yeah. So here we go.
The Cubs challenged that one, so it wasn't Max, so he's off the hook.
Yeah.
Home plate umpire Tony Randazzo. Here's what it looked like. So it was a strike. So the Cubs challenged it. I'm guessing that it was the catcher, Reese McGuire.
Well, good. We see it in the very first inning.
You did see it in the very first inning. Not only did you see it in the very first inning, but the first challenge of the ABS in the first inning was a successful challenge. It was a called ball low. The ABS kicked in. They showed it up on the board. It was very clearly within the strike zone. The call was overturned. A strike was rung up and ended up being a K on the score sheet, if I recall correctly. That clip in its entirety from start, which it starts at the pitcher windup, to the conclusion, and that last little second there, where he says we see it in the first inning, the pitcher was throwing the next pitch when that happened. That entire clip was 43 seconds in length. That included a windup, a pitch, a call, a challenge, a review, a display of the results of the review, and another pitch, 44 seconds. We got 2 pitches done in 44 seconds. The review itself, from the helmet tap of the catcher to the umpire requesting the challenge, to the helmet tap of the umpire signaling to the scorekeeping booth and the, I'm going to call it VAR, but the ABS system to run the challenge. The challenge itself, the result of the challenge, the display of the challenge up on the scoreboard, the display of the challenge up on the scoreboard being put on the television broadcast, the umpire giving the ruling, up to the next pitch. Less than 17 seconds. That challenge added 17 seconds. That was the first one. From challenge to next pitch, 17 seconds. Now, that's a convenient number because Major League Baseball, which has been testing ABS in the minor league levels for a couple of years, has said that challenges have, on average, added 17 seconds per challenge to a game. Now, I'm, what's the word I'm looking for here? Dumb, okay? But 17 seconds is a tick over 25% of a minute. That means to add 1 minute to a game, you'd have to have 4 challenges. In the spring training system that we have set up, each team gets 2 challenges. If your challenge is successful, you retain the challenge, you still have 2. If your challenge is unsuccessful, you lose a challenge, you go to 1. If you use that challenge successful, you stay at 1. You lose that challenge, you're now out of challenges for the game. It takes, again, 4 challenges to add a minute of game time. If we had 8 challenges in a game, there are 4 allowed. Obviously, you can go above that if you get them right. But if we have 8 challenges in a game, which is unlikely, 8 challenges in a game, that would add 2 minutes of baseball. Somebody yesterday, when I was, after the hockey game, flipping around the internet last night, trying to cool off and calm down before I went bed, and I was going through the social media, I found a discussion about the ABS call, about this particular ABS call on Instagram. And there was a guy in the comments, and it had a bunch of likes and a bunch of debate going on in the sub-comments under that. A guy said, I have pitched in front of an ABS before. And he said, I have a couple of problems with this. Which makes sense, because I don't think there's going to be a group of players in America. I don't think there's going to be a group of people in America that hate this system more than pitchers. Okay? There's just not. Because they're looking for opportunities to massage the side of the strike zone. But he said, there's 2 problems I have. That was the first one. He said to me, the battle between the pitcher and the batter, and the pitcher and the umpire and the batter, the battle of figuring out what is, what isn't, how to work that zone that is allowed, etc. That's part of the psychology of baseball. Now, I don't disagree that it has been a part of the psychology of baseball. What I will say is you're having a battle of psychology over bad calls. That's the whole point there. Now the calls are right. If you throw a strike, you get a strike. If you throw a ball, you don't. But his second take was, this is going to completely disrupt the rhythm of the game. And I thought about that. I said, you know what? That actually, if there's an argument out there, because the human element argument, as I said earlier this week, not an argument to me. I don't care. The argument that it will disrupt the rhythm of the game is probably the best argument that you have if you're an anti-robo-ump or anti-ABS kind of guy. 17 seconds. I remember, as I'm sure most of you do, a time in baseball when there was no pitch clock. And so catcher would toss ball out to pitcher. Pitcher would catch the ball. And then he'd walk away from the mound and he'd look out at the outfield and then he'd come back over and he'd wipe the spikes on the rubber, right? And then he'd get into the stretch and he'd look at the catcher and he'd shake off a sign. He'd shake off a sign. Then he'd stand back up and he'd dig that foot in. If there's a batter or a base runner on, he'd look off the runner at first, turn to second, look at third, look at the base runners. And then he would look and then he'd take that breath. And then he'd start his pitch. I want you to know that entire explanation, that entire rundown description I just gave you took more time than the ABS replay did. Took more time. I don't want to hear about the rhythm of the game because pitchers used to take for bleeping ever. And I will agree, it was part of the psychology of the game. If you want to argue that the game psychology has changed, that's fine. The psychology of every game has changed recently. Recently. The psychology of the NFL has changed. We now have a game designed to protect quarterbacks, to make offenses more explosive. That's just the way the NFL is. College football. The psychology of college football has changed. We have changed the clock rules. We have changed the calls, the penalty rules, etc. You adapt. Major League Baseball, just a couple of short years ago, went to a pitch clock. 20 seconds. Get the ball back out there, get set up, get engaged. Batter's got to be engaged with the pitcher by 8 seconds or it's a foul on him. Pitcher's got to deliver the ball by 0 seconds or it's a foul on him. That was a couple of seasons ago. Quick question. How many of you said, bleep you, Major League Baseball? I'm out of here. None of you. None of you. A challenge. The first challenge. A challenge where the umpire has got to go, okay, how does this work? A challenge where the replay system's got to go, okay, how does this work? A challenge where the folks who run the video board got to go, okay, how does this work? Where the catcher's got to go, okay, how did this work? The batter's got to go. All that has to happen. It took 17 seconds. It's going to get faster as we utilize it. 17 seconds added to that game. 17 seconds, which is less time than it takes me to describe to you how long it used to take for pitchers to get set up and throw a pitch. 17 seconds, and you know what happened? Call number one, reversed. Ball turns into a strike. Pitcher gets a strikeout that maybe he doesn't get if that's ordered a ball. Perfect. It worked. Mwah. Perfecto. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, I'm also going to take a brief break. Stay right there. We shall return. Oh man, I have nothing nice to say about Angel Hernandez. We should name robo umps. We should name them. We should name it the Angel system. It should be called the Angel. All right, that's a called ball. Catchers decided to challenge. Let's go to the Angel. Lonzo said earlier in the day that he was bored with the Four Nations championship game between Team Canada and Team US last
I
night.
think that's exactly what I said. I think you're misrepresenting me.
I believe it's exactly what you
I
said.
don't believe it was. I don't believe it was.
You said you were bored and you went
I
to sleep.
never said bored. As I recall, we can go back and you can too on the Odyssey app, which is free to download, and you can check it out the first hour, or you can go to chapters on the Odyssey app and go to the first segment of the first hour when we discussed this right out of the blocks. What I said was I, like many people, were given a bill of goods about what we were going to see when we tuned into this game, and that is not what we saw. Saw an unaggressive USA team go up against an aggressive Canadian team. And yes, I fell asleep while watching it. But here's the thing. It was after 9 o'clock, and I am nearly 60 years old and get up around 4 a.m.
First off, it was after 8 o'clock, unless you made it into the well into the second
Here's
period.
what I did is I recorded it so I could start watching it and skip past the commercials like I do with most quite a few sporting events. And so I was able to skip past the commercials, get right back into the action. But I thought that we were going to see a game like happened last time they played, and they didn't come out and try to win until apparently in the later on in the game when a bunch of people have already tuned out.
So a couple of things.
Never said bored.
Couple of things, even if he didn't say bored, which I think he did, but we'll find out later. I'm going to start with this. First 10 minutes of that game, Team USA was laying the lumber. No fights, no fisticuffs, but the Team USA was laying the lumber in the first 10 minutes. My problem with the game was that it was very aggressive, very physical right out of the gate, and then they got away from it a
All
little
right, can
bit.
you explain something to me, because I don't know all the hockey rules. I felt like I got icing last night for the first time ever. It's taken me forever, but I finally understand it after a couple icing calls on the United States. Finally got it. That painted circle around, or half circle around the goalie, in front of the goalie.
The blue ice, the
crease?
crease?
Yeah, I didn't think that you're supposed to have a bunch of people inside of that. And if I recall, they even complained about it a little bit. The announce team did. And that happened quite a bit on the American side.
You cannot have offensive players in the crease, but if the offensive player gets pushed into the crease, then it's allowed.
Yeah, I think they were in that crease.
I don't disagree.
I'm pretty sure they were in the crease.
Also, quick timeout. I know you all noticed what I noticed. Did you notice the advertising slogan that Dude Wipes was utilizing during the game last night?
No.
They put the CGI graphics on the boards, right? I don't know
Wow,
if you
you
noticed
were
that.
looking at that and not looking at the
They
game?
move, dude. I have ADHD.
Yeah,
They move.
I never even noticed that
Okay.
was on the thing.
Well, the rest of you, I'm sure, at least some of you noticed. Hockey a couple of years ago started putting CGI advertisements on the boards. It's a good way to get more advertisement in the game without having to actually stop the game for advertisements. And they move. Like during the NHL games, Hertz Rental Car is a big sponsor, and they actually have a car that drives around the boards, and it puts up the Hertz logo behind it. Well, last night, one of the advertising sponsors was Dude Wipes, and the slogan that they had in a gigantic advertisement right in the middle of the rink whenever the boys would skate in front of one way or the other, Alonzo, was protect your crease with Dude Wipes.
Okay, I was wondering what triggered you suddenly remembering that. So,
Protect your
okay.
crease. I got to tell you, Keegan and I immediately just launched into a whole text conversation about it. Protect your crease. Okay, so anyway.
A bunch of booty jokes, of course.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Okay, all right.
I was like that. At one point, I sent to him, I said, makes sense that Team USA is playing like ass. It's a good joke.
Careful now, you're going to
It's a
upset
good joke.
Creed. 'cause
Hey, he'll
that's
be all
not-
right.
I mean, even though it's sports adjacent, it's
We'll get you
still
there,
not
Creed.
sports.
We'll get you there. All right. So anyway, back to the game. I don't necessarily want to talk about the X's and O's because we did that again back in the first hour. Go to thefanupstate.com. Go to the podcast section. Go back to hour number 1. You can listen to it. I gave you a full breakdown in the second segment. Here's what I want to talk about here. Everyone else in American sports, look at this model. Look at this model. Look at what the NHL just did. Because while there are a handful of people that perhaps like Lonzo feel like they were sold a false bill of goods, thought they were going to tune in yesterday and see team combat and also maybe a little hockey on the side, it was a damn good hockey game. And if you tuned into that game and you were new to hockey, not only do I think, and credit where credit is due, not only do I think that the broadcast, both on ESPN and on TSN, which is the Canadian broadcast that covered it, although I believe in Canada, it's national law, you have to be a hockey fan. I thought they did a pretty good job making the game engaging and entertaining, even for those who maybe are new to it. I think they recognized the potential for new audience members in this game. And I think they did a good job of presenting it in a way that they were talking about hockey to people who love hockey, but also explaining enough of what was going on that if you don't love hockey, you checked in. I assume that because after the goal that went 2-2 and made the game level, even my mother was texting me American flag and bald eagle emojis. She was in. Okay? So, with all of that being said, what I think was the best about this Four Nations face-off was that the NHL figured out a way to make the players care. Now, I found out last night, and I did not know this. I do now. That apparently a best-on-best international tournament, do you know whose idea this was? The players. Apparently, according to a report I heard last night on Sirius XM radio as I was driving to my game-watching destination and listening to the pregame, and they were talking about the fact that if you were in Boston, Massachusetts last night, it had a Stanley Cup Game 7 vibe around. PK Subban was on the pregame. PK is Canadian. Played in Montreal, played in Nashville. He's Canadian. I love PK Subban. PK said that he walked into the arena well before the game, about the same time as the two teams arrived at the TD Garden to get set up for their pregame routine. PK said, I was walking down the hallway between the two locker rooms, between the two dressing rooms where the team would get ready to go on the ice, and I walked past Brady Tkachuk, one of the two Tkachuk brothers. PK Subban got asked, who are you picking in this game? All week long, he said, Canada, Canada, Canada. Yesterday, about an hour before the game, he switched his pick to the United States. The guy that was doing the broadcasting said, whoa. You're Canadian. How are you picking the U.S.? They may revoke your right to move back to Canada, eh? And PK said, I'll tell you why. I was walking down the hallway between the two dressing rooms, and I walked right past Matthew Tkachuk. And as I did, I said, sup, Chuck? And he shoulder checked me into the wall of the tunnel because he was just in that zone. He said in that moment, I went, Team USA, they're getting this win. They're locked in. Now, he was wrong. Team Canada gets the win. But the point here is they figured out a way to make the fellas out there, give a damn. Connor McDavid scored the overtime goal for the win. Here's what he had to say on the ice immediately after it.
Connor, you just beat these guys in America after they beat you at the Bell Center. What's the most gratifying part about this?
Just to see the reaction, just to know what it means to us. I know it's just a quick tournament, and it's not an Olympic gold medal or anything like that, but it means the world to our group. As you can see, everybody battled so hard all week. So, it was special.
Why does it mean so much?
Because it's best on best. It's 4 great countries going at it. Obviously here in Boston, going against an amazing American team, and just finding a way. It wasn't necessarily the prettiest, but just found a way.
There's so many people watching this that might not necessarily be hockey fans. What do you hope they learned about our sport?
Well, I hope they love it. It's a great game. It's a great sport. And I hope we put on a good show these last couple days and gain some fans. Ultimately, you can't ask for a better show than that.
Totally agreed. Totally agree. Can't ask for a better game. Absolutely put on a show. It was an electric tournament. Games were almost all very, very good. And the ones that weren't great were still pretty good. Said, why does this mean so much to you? He says, best on best. I get to strap on the maple leaf and go represent my team. He was not alone. Sid the Kid Crosby is a legend of the game, not just a Canadian legend, a legendary hockey player from Canada. He's been in the league for a very long time. He suited up. Didn't have to, wanted to.
Sid, I just saw you singing along to "Oh Canada" with your teammates. What was going through your mind?
It's just special. I mean, every opportunity you get to wear the Canadian jersey and compete in this event, something new. But I think you saw the hockey that was on display. It was pretty incredible, and just happy for this group. We came together in a short period of time and found a way to get it done.
You missed the 2 Penguins games before this. A lot of us didn't know if you were going to be here. Why was it so important for you?
Yeah, I mean, just to get the opportunity to play for Canada. It's been a long time, and any chance you get to do that, it's huge. Obviously, be part of this group, too. It's a special group, and like I said, glad we could find a way to win it.
37 years old, still at the top of your game. So many of your teammates here have talked about you being an idol. What keeps you going?
I think just my passion for it, and get an opportunity to play with these guys. How can you not be motivated by that? It's a pretty special group, and happy for Connor to get that goal. He's an incredible player and stepped up big when we needed it.
LeBron James walked away from the NBA All-Star game just a couple of hours before it started, citing that he needed to rest his ankle. Sidney Crosby missed 2 games from the Pittsburgh Penguins leading into the All-Star game because he was injured, not hurt. And yet, in an exhibition All-Star format that he could have absolutely said, I ain't doing this. I got to get healthy. I got to get right for my NHL career. Sid the Kid put on the helmet, put on the maple leaf, put on the crest, got out there and played. It mattered. Austin Matthews, captain, Team USA. 2 opportunities to win this game in overtime, twice denied by excellent Canadian defense. He was asked in the locker room after the game about his feelings.
You've played some important games. How would you sort of compare just the feeling of this one, the meaning of it, maybe compared to some playoff situations you've been in and such?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was probably the biggest game a lot of us have played in. You don't get too many opportunities to wear these colors, to wear this jersey, in a winner-take-all situation. So obviously it's disappointing, but I couldn't be prouder of the group. I thought, like I said, we competed the whole tournament, did everything it took to overcome many adversities. A lot of good stuff happened, but obviously sucks to walk away on the losing end.
You can hear it matters. Now, I want to very clearly say this. I think it's great they care. I've addressed this throughout the day-to-day from the standpoint of, as a hockey fan who wants to see hockey continue to grow in the country. I want to see hockey continue to grow at the local level. I would love to get to a point where the Greenville Swamp Rabbits set the attendance record for the ECHL any given year. I would love to get to the point where we get text every week from people going, hey, Rob, heading over to Nashville to see the Preds, heading up to Raleigh to see the Canes. I hope within the next year or 2, people are going to be sending texts, hey, Rob, heading over to Atlanta to go see the Atlanta whatever they are. The Atlanta sitting in traffics, whatever they're called. I hope that happens. I'm good for all of that. But this isn't really about the players care and that makes the games good. What matters is the games were good, and we've got people who are texting the show. Texter just said, Rob, that was my first time watching hockey. It was pretty cool. I've been to a hockey game before, but first time watching it on TV, 10 times better than watching a bunch of bums shoot threes all night. I get it. I'm an NBA guy. I'm still a basketball fan, but I completely get it. This tournament was great because Austin Matthews was on the verge of tears after taking an L in a game that he didn't have to play in. In fact, probably been better for his NHL career if he didn't. This was a game where Sidney Crosby, off an injury that caused the guy who doesn't miss games to miss the last 2 for his NHL team, said, I don't give a damn. Give me the jersey. I'm getting out there. A game in which Matthew Tkachuk probably should have been in the hospital. You know what he did? He sat on the end of the bench, dressed out, and said, if we get to a spot where it's advantageous for me to go out there and play injured, damn it, I'm going out there and playing injured for the USA. This tournament found a way to make the players care. The players caring turned into some of the most electrifying hockey that I've seen on TV in a very long time. And I'm a guy who watches NHL hockey with some regularity. It was great. It resulted in a game where last night I had texts from 3 different people saying, I'm sitting down to watch this game. Not a hockey guy, but you've talked me into it. Where we've gotten 4 texts this morning from people going, I'm not a hockey guy, but I watched that game last night. That was exciting. Guys, that's hockey. It's hockey. NHL hockey, not going to have as much talent on any given roster. That's the best the USA and the best Canada produces. But you will have guys that are on the same professional hockey club that have been playing together for 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45 games, and they've developed chemistry that those 2 rosters just could not develop over effectively a week and a half long period. That was good, and you heard why in those interviews. Because the players asked for years, can we do, instead of an all-star game, can we do an international competition? We'll all commit to it. And they did commit. And they played for their country. They played for their flag. They played for their fellow countrymen. And it translated to a bunch of incredible hockey games. We'll see what that translates to in terms of audience moving forward. I expect the Greenville Swamp Rabbits sold some tickets last night. I expect they sold some tickets to their games this weekend. I expect the Nashville Predators, the Carolina Hurricanes, sold some tickets last night to people who maybe have never been to a game before. And as I've said about hockey, I think this is true about hockey. I say this about all sports. If you want to be a fan of a sport, you got to experience it. I haven't gotten people into NASCAR until I've taken them to a track to see a race. I haven't gotten people into basketball till I've taken them to a game to live it. I think last night a lot of people got to live hockey for the first time. And I think it was a model that the rest of American sports better figure out. Ladies and gentlemen, time for a sports flash. From the great one, Lonzo!
Sorry, I had to wait for the train to go by. Never block the tracks, ladies and gentlemen. South Carolina's women's basketball team got back on the winning side last night, recording a 40-point, 95-55 win over Arkansas. That's a spanking. The Gamecocks were led by Joyce Edwards, 18 points, and Malaysia Fulwiley's 15 points, both coming off the bench. Bree Hall had 14, and Chloe Kitts had 10, with 13 rebounds tacked on. The Gamecocks are now 24-3 overall and 12-1 in conference, tied with Texas atop the league. LeBron James continues to set NBA records in his 20th season. James dropped 40 points in a 110-102 win over Portland. It was the second time James has scored 40 since turning 40 back in December. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. as the Furman Paladins take on the VMI Keydets. It's Furman versus VMI right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball. The Fan, upstate.
Restore those damaged joints. You won't miss a beat, and there's no downtime. So give them a call at QC Kinetics today. Get a free consultation. They're at 864-448-3772. That's 864-448-3772 in Greenville and in Nashville. 864-448-3772 QC Kinetics.
Attention small business owners needing financing. Swish Funding is providing funds for expansion, inventory, increased overhead, With affordable funding as soon as one business day. And we're ready to help with funding from $10,000 to $2 million. If you've been in business for 1 year or more with a monthly income of at least $25,000, you can get the affordable funding you need with no collateral. Go to swishfunding.com today. That's swishfunding.com.
You find yourself stuck in a timeshare. Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-967-7711. 800-967-7711. 800-967-7711.
Golfers, your next round is calling. With the Upstate Golf Card, you'll play 6 incredible courses for just...
Life is a mystery. Them boys was hitting. First 10 minutes of that game were as good as I've seen hockey in a minute.
Don't wait, your next round is calling. UpstateGolfCard.com.
I'm Bob Burke, founder and chairman of Burke America Parts Group, a family of brands that includes RepairClinic.com, an appliance and HVAC parts solution company that's grown into an international brand. Before AmericanEagle.com, we have partially launched a new technology platform developed by another firm. American Eagle helped take our technology to a whole new level with digital marketing, software development, and business.
Trey, so obviously I am not super familiar with it. My understanding is that the Road Warriors were a name because at the time, Greenville's hockey team did not have a stadium. So every game was a road game. They only played on the road, hence the Road Warriors. Then they flipped it to the Growl with 3 R's, which I got to tell you, all-time name. I am very partial to the Swamp Rabbits, if for no other reason than every time somebody goes, why the Swamp Rabbits, I get to offer up a little bit of Greenville history that I've learned, which is pretty awesome.
National contest. Listen to the Fan Upstate on the Odyssey app.
WORD Spartanburg.
WFPC HD3 Greenville, the official sports voice of the Upstate fan.
Bum, ba-dum, bum.
You're an official Rob Brown lockdown. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show. Raw only.
The Fan Upstate.
And here we go. The final 60. The final hour of the day, of the show, of the week. Welcome back. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. You're welcome to be a part of the show at 844-326-3663. You can give us a text on that number. You can give us a call and get on the air. 844-326-3663. Tweet me at The Rob Brown Show. Tweet Lonzo at Lonzo on Word. Tweet everybody up in here at The Fan Upstate. If you want to get at us in that direction, you can do it. If you want to email me, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. That email is, it's on my phone, so it's always available. I'll usually answer you back at some point. Usually. But much like when, and Lonzo can attest, people text me, it might take me a little while, all right? Just give me some time.
Or never.
Or that. That's also a possibility. We've got a few more things I want to get to on the radio program before we bounce up out of here, and or Creed comes up here to try to fight us for not sticking to sports. Hashtag stick to sports. I'm still going to say, raise the GOAT of yelling at us. But Creed made an argument today, and I respect that. I really do. All right, a couple more things I wanted to get to on the show today. This is a conversation that I wanted to get into a little bit. And I don't know how many, if any of you care about this conversation. It matters a lot to me. It's something that I've pushed on for a very long time. And I know that many of you probably couldn't really care less. But I do. Because I don't think enough people genuinely understand that in American sports primarily, really more so than international sports, your ownership is arguably the most important thing. I would make the argument that the most important people in any sports organization in America are the owners. If they are unwilling to be good owners, then unfortunately for you, there's really nothing that you can do about it. And that sucks. This is why earlier when we had Doug and Chris from the Greenville Triumph on, and we were talking, as we did yesterday, about the USL potentially propping up another major soccer league to compete with MLS, and it would include promotion relegation, which, if you're unfamiliar with the term, effectively it says this. There are multiple divisions. The teams, X number of teams at the bottom of a division, will drop down a division for being there. The top same number of teams in the lower division will move up to the top division. It effectively is a punishment reward system for success or failure. I'm big on this idea in American soccer. Why? Because there are teams in MLS that just hang out at the bottom of the league. They don't really do anything. They don't really, what's the word I'm looking for here? Try. But yet they get rewarded with Apple TV money, with ESPN money, with whatever network is paying them out. They get rewarded by having big time games. They get rewarded by all these different things happening around them. Same is true in the NFL. The Haslams in Cleveland. Hell, Jerry Jones with Dallas. What do they get rewarded with? More and more money every year. Continued rising valuation of their franchises every year, whether they win Super Bowls or they suck. The Glazers own the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They also are the majority owner of arguably the most notorious soccer franchise on the face of the planet, Manchester United Football Club, which plays over in England. There is a very interesting situation that is developing right now over in England around Man United. There's actually two of them that are coming out right now. I am going to allow a couple of fans to tell us what those things are. This is the Real United Stand podcast out of London, explaining a news article that dropped in a major publication earlier this week.
So he's coming out from James Ducker at The Telegraph that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has implemented a zero-based budgeting policy in which every single item of expenditure is scrutinised in an attempt to drive down costs. Cartons of screws are being individually counted by the group property services at Manchester United. Meanwhile, staff have noted how the portion sizes in the canteen at Old Trafford are smaller now and there is less variety, and the bulk orders of vegetable at Carrington require a sign-off. These are cost-cutting, but it is cost-cutting at the absolute extreme. You know, the Glazers have owned this football club since 2005. We have had terrible decisions happen over the course of the years, and they still own the majority of this football club. A lot of it is getting pinned onto Ineos, but they still own the majority of this football club. We have a player like, and I'm not blaming Mason Mount, but Mason Mount, he's made 13 starts for Manchester United. He's on 240 grand a week. and we're counting cartons of screws and reducing portion sizes in the canteen. It's like an episode of, I don't know, it's like Oliver Twist, the film, Please Sir, Can I Have Some More? Like, we are Manchester United. We should be, the biggest club in England. We are the biggest club in England. And this is how we are being ran. And these are the cost-cutting measures that are being put into place.
First off, I could listen to that accent all day, but that's creepy. So let's go to the second thing.
Oliver Twist was a book first, right?
Oliver Twist was a book first.
I believe Charles Dickens, I believe.
That is correct. I know that. That's not the only thing that's going on right now with Manchester United. There's a second story that is broken. Gabe Sinner, not Gabe Sinner. I apologize. This clip, let me find my source here so I can give credit where credit is due. This comes from the Old Zealand Pod. The Old Zealand Pod is another soccer pod done by an American who is both a Manchester United guy and a Bucks guy. They just happen to be luck of the draw. But there's been criticism for a long time because teams like Chelsea that have ownership groups that do include other sports teams in their portfolio, they come here and they play games in the States. Chelsea played a game, 2 years ago at Charlotte FC in Bank of America Stadium. I went. It was a ball. They do a hell of a lot to promote themselves in the Americas. Manchester United, owned by the Glazers, actively avoids interaction with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, also owned by the Glazers. Now, there's been a lot of theories as to why that is, but a story has been developing. The Old Zealand Pod explained it.
As you might have noticed, if you're a fan of the Buccaneers or a fan of Manchester United, they never interact at all. Well, apparently there is a reason for that. ESPN reporter Mark Ogden told the Football Reporters podcast that reason, and I quote, "I was told it's quite simply because the owners didn't want the United squad to see how good the Tampa Bay facilities were. They didn't want them to see the training ground because the training ground in Tampa is meant to be state of the art." And it is true. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, particularly recently, opened a $70 million training facility that was last upgraded in 2022, which, according to Ronaldo's interview with his servant Piers Morgan, that is not the case at Manchester United. And instead of fixing that problem, apparently, according to Ogden, the Glazers just kept them apart, spent a little money on the NFL team. Yikes.
So the Glazers, according to this report, if you believe it, the owners of Man U and Tampa Bay, don't let their two teams interact with each other because players at Man U, where fans are unhappy, where some players are reportedly unhappy, they don't want them to see how good the renovated, updated facilities at Tampa are. They updated those facilities a handful of years ago in 2022, right at the time that Tom Brady retired. And the theory is, and I subscribe to this, the reason they did that isn't because they were super high on spending a bunch of money on Tampa Bay, but because you will go back in time after Tom Brady retired in 2022, what was the discussion? Brady's leaving. The Bucks are about to implode because who's going to want to stay there and play for Todd Bowles? Who's going to want to stay there when Tom Brady's not there? Who's going to want to stay there? Hey, who the hell's going to be the quarterback next year? And apparently the renovation of the facility to make it state-of-the-art, top-notch, was just to make sure that Tampa didn't implode on itself. So they don't let Man U come because Man U is so big and so successful over the years, although this year not as much, that they're not investing in it. They haven't invested in 3 years in Tampa. They only invested so that the team didn't rip itself apart at the seams when Brady left them. I believe I subscribe to that theory. Ownership can have a big influence on what's happening. Let's go to Dallas, Texas. Still dealing with the fallout of sending Luka Doncic to the LA Lakers in return for Anthony Davis, who played 31 minutes before injuring his groin and going on the IR for at least a month. Dallas has been bad since that happened. So bad, in fact, that NBC DFW, the NBC station affiliate there in Dallas-Fort Worth, put together a very interesting news segment on their 10 o'clock news broadcast about it.
A PR nightmare. That is how a crisis management expert describes the mess the Dallas Mavericks are in. Emotions have been high since the team traded Luka Doncic earlier this month. Meredith Yeomans shows how fans are making their voices heard and how an expert says the team can rebound.
Alex Kelly walked into the AAC on a mission.
We wanted to make sure that we could get as many people out who wanted to be able to voice their opinion and let themselves be heard.
Opinions he feels were censored Monday night when fans protesting the Luka Doncic trade were ejected from the game. One holding a Fire Nico sign and another wearing a shirt depicting the Mavs owner as a clown.
It's ridiculous.
Tonight, similar shirts were snuck into the AAC for fans to wear in defiance.
They have forgotten their fans, I think.
Amy Power runs a crisis management firm out of Dallas. She says kicking fans out of Monday's game for what the Mavs said were NBA code of conduct violations only amplified anger after the trade.
People are reasonable, people forgive, people move on. But this story is, 2 weeks in, is still as hot as it was day one. And that to me tells me it is a PR nightmare for them. I think what the fans really want is an apology or a better understanding of why they did this.
A crisis management center comes on board. Spectacular. Oh, by the way, speaking of, real quick, I got to throw one more Man U thing in there. This is I forgot to play this clip. It's important too. I'm coming to my point. Stick with me. This is from the Football Ramble podcast, another England-based pod that covers MUFC.
An email at Manchester United that was asking staff not to leak things has been leaked quite wonderfully.
Well, I'm leaking that.
Yeah. What did you expect? What did you expect? Staff have been warned by senior management that leaks over Ineos's cuts are damaging to colleagues and the wider club. I would argue that the cuts are damaging to the club and the wider colleagues.
Imagine old Ratcliffe just putting them all in. So I've noticed that since I've spent the last 6 or 9 months treating you with no respect whatsoever, you seem to be treating me with quite a lot of disrespect.
Yeah. But stop having to go to the chopping block, because the chopping block is people's going to not like the chopping block.
Yeah. Stop putting these leaked emails through the chopping block. 'Cause that's my chopping block. Yeah. And it's covered in blood.
So one of the minority owners of MUFC has been apparently directed to go through cost-cutting measures. We played you the clip earlier from the other podcast where they said, look, they're at the point now where they are inventorying and limiting boxes of nails for constructions. They are cutting down on portion size in the employee canteen. You get less food for the same amount of money than you used to, et cetera, et cetera. And then when those stories started going out, instead of addressing them, correcting them, the owners instead sent out an email that said, hey, please don't leak these details to the public. They make us look bad, as if, A, it's not the cut themselves that make it look bad, and B, as if when you send an email that says, please don't leak this email to an organization with thousands of employees, everybody's going to go, oh, no, you're right, everything's good. I get less fish and chips in the canteen than I ever had before. I gotta get owner permission to buy a box of nails to hang a poster up in the building. But yeah, no, I respect you. I'm good with that. Like, it's just hilarious. It's just hilarious. I am in this really frustrated spot though, because I came to a realization a handful of days after the Luka trade, when the conspiracy theory started floating around. Dwayne Wade was in on it. I was in on it. In fact, if I recall correctly, I said my version of the conspiracy theory before Dwayne Wade and the rest of the NBA did. And the problem with the conspiracy theory isn't that it's happening. If it is happening, I believe it is. The problem with the conspiracy theory is that fans lose. You can't win. And I'm obviously speaking about the Dallas Mavericks, but I would say the same is true for the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones got asked, hey, why haven't you signed Micah Parsons yet?
It's important to get Micah's deal done early as opposed to like Dak and CD waiting.
You know, everybody puts a lot of when it's done. And a lot of us live life not having all the things buttoned up. And so I don't believe that the timing, what I really would hang your hat on is how much we paid him and what he needs to be and what he is. That's the big thing. I didn't see him missing one snap at all. And I didn't see Lamb catching one ball over when we signed Dak, or for that matter, when we signed Lamb at all. And I know I've got people will disagree with that. But I'm not going to alter my time frame in any kind of negotiation over somebody thinking that one of them, if they had been a little more together in training camp, that they would have had a better year. But I don't buy that, and I'll never buy it.
And there it is. I don't buy that, and I'll never buy that.
Okay, that's what you can do when you're the owner. I'm more concerned.
Oh, for sure.
I'm more concerned about what was going on in the background.
This was in a hallway at the facility, and there was a bunch of stuff going on in the background. It was kind of like somebody got Jerry when he was walking by, and then he decided to launch into that whole take when the entire fan base is going, whoa, 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 whoa. Micah Parsons is one of the best 3 defensive players in the National Football League. We need to get that guy signed. You haven't signed him. Why the hell not? And Jerry's response is, well, I'm not really worried about it because I don't believe that getting signed. Jerry, how you treat people matters. How you treat people determines how they feel about you. How they feel about you determines how well they're going to work, how hard they're willing to work, and if they're willing to continue to work. Everybody's been asking the question about, will the Cowboys trade Micah Parsons? I'm not sure Micah Parsons doesn't demand a trade at some point, right? And yet Jerry's asked for an address to the fans. Why? Where are you? And his answer is, well, I know y'all are worried about it, but I'm not. And clearly, since it's been 30 years since we won an NFC championship game, it's been 30 years since we won a Super Bowl, everything I'm doing's right. Fans can't win. Can't win because there's nothing you can do about it. The Dallas Mavericks either watch their fan base erode because people go, I'm not going to games, and then they get to move the team to Vegas, or they go, I'm going to go to games down on a protest, but they still got your money. We can't win. It's kind of a bummer. It's existential at the least. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Give me 30 seconds, guys. Bear back. Big low.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-518-3899. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Oh, man.
That can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-518-3899. That's 800-518-3899. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
At Eagles, we're proud to work with hundreds of local farms and businesses in the communities we call home. Not only does it ensure that you get top quality fresh items for your family table, it's a way for us to support the amazing individuals who pour their heart and soul into delivering the best they can do. Quality.
Future Eagle Micah Parsons. Oh, man.
Love the savings.
Could you imagine? That'd be like if, like, the Giants let an all-pro running back go to the Eagles, right? Like, you can't let that happen. I imagine the owner would lose sleep if that happened. This Victor Wembanyama story is very interesting. Victor Wembanyama yesterday, just a couple of hours before the San Antonio Spurs lined up for an NBA game, announced that Victor Wembanyama, the reigning, defending, undisputed NBA Rookie of the Year and a minus 3,500 odds-on betting favorite to win the NBA Defensive Player of the Year award, because the kid's kind of a freak of nature in the paint, is now going to miss the remainder of the regular season. The remainder of the regular season, Victor Wembanyama is out because they found a case of severe thrombosis in his shoulder. They found effectively a blood clot in his shoulder that, had it become dislodged, which is effectively a possibility, if not probability, based on physical contact. Had it become dislodged, would have the potential to travel through his bloodstream into a place where you can't have a blood clot, block up the blood flow, and kill him. It's kind of a big deal. Athletes in years gone by have had their careers ended due to this. Chris Bosh was one of them. You'll all remember when Chris Bosh retired from the NBA. He was an all-star that year. He was an all-star the year retired. But he had this. And doctors effectively said, you can't play physical anymore. Now, the good news is, based on what I've heard, and I've got some clips here from a couple of doctors/reporters. I'll start with Sam Quinn. He is an NBA reporter embedded with the Spurs. Here was his description of Wemby's situation.
This is a medical condition that has ended careers. I mean, most notably, Chris Bosh was still an all-star when he had his first clot. It didn't take long for his career to end after that. Mirza Teletovic, a good role player for the Milwaukee Bucks, blood clots ended his career as well. We hope this is an isolated incident, and there are cases in recent NBA history of players having an isolated incident like this and coming back just fine. The one that comes to mind is Brandon Ingram, who had a clot because of a shoulder injury when he was with the Los Angeles Lakers. He gets traded to the Pelicans in the Anthony Davis deal, and he's gone on to have a productive, healthy career for the most part. So what we're hoping for here is that this can just be an isolated incident. It'll keep him out for the rest of this season, and then he can come back next year at full strength.
He was not alone. Marty Jeremio is a sports, not doctor, but therapist. Sports injury therapist, I guess is the right word. Anyway, he was on CBS Sports.
This could happen from just blunt trauma, hitting it the wrong way near the undersurface of his armpit, or it could be congenital. Players or individuals with extreme height do have a potential issue with DVTs, these deep vein thrombosis or these clots. The good thing is this is good news for this young man. They caught it early. Do I foresee any long-term problems? Absolutely not. He can make a full recovery once again, barring any unforeseen issues.
So the good news is, as you just heard, caught it early enough in his career, or excuse me, not in his career, caught it early enough in the development that the clot did not become too enlarged and become a long-term issue. Caught it early enough that right now, the assumption is that it can be treated with blood thinners. However, blood thinners, you can't engage in extreme physical effort. You can't be out there working. You certainly can't be involved in, physical contact as, a center does in the NBA. Yes, even a 7-foot-tall, lanky one. The story's wild because if they did not catch this, it could have killed him. It was physical contact, likely, my understanding, in the 928, roughly 10 and a half hours that I've done a deep dive on this concept. The clot itself can be formed by physical contact. The clot can also become dislodged by physical contact. If the clot becomes dislodged, it could end up being stuck in a critical vein or artery, etc., and stop blood flow and, again, kill you. So it's honestly a very scary situation that played out for Victor Wembanyama. They found it early enough that the belief is right now that they would be able to treat it with blood thinners. Now it becomes monitored. Apparently, after the All-Star game, Victor Wembanyama returned to San Antonio and felt off. Said he just felt off. They did this whole battery of tests on him, and they found this blood clot and found it early enough that it will allow him to be treated without major issue and without having to step away from the game of basketball for more than the back half of a single season. And that's obviously a good thing. It's obviously a big time positive. But what a genuinely scary situation. It ended Chris Bosh's career. There was a thought it was going to potentially end Brandon Ingram's career. Fortunately, same with Ingram. They caught it early enough that after he got traded to New Orleans, he was able to get his health right, get himself right, and become the last couple of years, major player for the New Orleans Pelicans. Obviously, they moved on from BI at the trade deadline this year, but he was able to continue his career and move on from that. So this is it's a very interesting situation. It's a very scary situation. And it is, again, just one more illustration of how I think sometimes we look at these professional athletes. And especially when we see the best of the best, right? We see LeBron after a game take the jersey off and the dude's absolutely shredded. We see, these prime time Giannis Antetokounmpo looks like a literal Greek god. We see these guys, and I think we kind of look and we go, that's the paragon of health, right? But that's as good as it gets. If I look like LeBron, if I look like Giannis, if I look like Freddie Freeman, whoever, that's the definition of great. And we don't realize that they're human beings too. I can't imagine Wemby getting off a plane in San Antonio and going, something's wrong, and walking in. There was a guy yesterday that I was following on, well, not following, I was reading along with him on Twitter as he was describing this deep vein thrombosis. And he said, this is something that is very scary. And it's scary because when you find out that you have it, until they really get an opportunity to like deep dive it, do some scans, whatever. When they figure out that's what it is, but before they can really get in there and like take a good look at it, you will get told by a doctor, there is a chance that this is nothing. We're going to give you a couple of pills. We're going to put you on a blood thinner and you're going to be fine. And there's also a chance that you could die. Lonzo will tell you.
Okay, why did you look under the screen at me when you said you could die?
I was kind of leaning in to
Okay,
emphasize
no,
the
there
point.
was eye contact. Like, you could die.
All right, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Because I think you're going to understand me on this. I'm shifting over here so I can look at Lonzo so we can have this conversation because I think you're going to understand this. Lonzo and I have a lot in common. Nothing more so than the fact that we are both absolute experts in the ability to look at something and go, worst case scenario is definitely happening here. I get a text from a boss who has kept me around for 5 years now. Hey, come down to my office after the show. And I'm like, all right, Zoe, been nice working with you. And I'm not joking. Every time. I think it's a game now. If I walk into a doctor's office and they're like, hey, you got a blood clot and there's a chance that it's going to be like, take a couple of pills, take a couple of days off, you're fine. Or there's a chance that you're going to die. I'm walking out of there having a whole ass existential breakdown. It's been fun. Mom, I love you. See ya. I'm dead before the way. Like, it's scary, is my point. That can be scary. And this guy, who's a freak of nature, reigning, defending, undisputed NBA MVP, probably going to be was going to be the defensive player of the year this year, is an all-star. Straight up got a diagnosis of like, hey, your season's over and maybe your career. I think it is important that we put a little bit of respect on the professional athletes that play these games and the college athletes that play these games that we love so much, that entertain us, that take us away from real life, take us away from reality, give us that escape that we all love in sports so much. Because stuff like this happens to them too. And they got to deal with it. All right. Got a couple more things I want to run through. When we come back, we will ask what the X is going on, and we will call it a day, call it a week on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. I don't know why. Like the last 5 minutes, the legs are like, why are you still standing? Please stop standing.
You don't have to keep standing, but are you going to give up with 25 minutes left?
No, it's a power through moment at this point.
You almost fell earlier, which was a concern, but you know. And more proof why you don't need to be standing on a pad. I just want
No,
to
the
point
pad
out.
actually helps with this.
No. When you lost balance earlier,
I really did for like a second.
Yeah,
I had to grab. You saw that.
The pad is not solid. You would have went down. You would have landed on the pad probably, which would have been good for you.
Balance in the first place because the pad is designed to allow your foot to settle in and cradle around it. Whereas that was, I just leaned on the outside of my foot, and thanks to 25 years of competitive basketball, the tendons in my ankles are worthless. When 6 years ago, when I lived in Destin, Florida, not the butthole. My best friend growing up, Drew Holt, his dad was my GP, my regular doctor. And Dr. Holt was he was in my little tribe of parents that raised a group of us growing up. So I went to go see Dr. Holt because my ankles were hurting, and I just assumed it was from playing basketball, and I figured it was going to be like, oh, they're inflamed, take this Tylenol or something. And he basically was like, hey, I'm gonna, we're gonna look at him, x-rays, whatever he did. I don't really remember, but he said, we're going to take a look. I was probably 33, 34, somewhere in that range. So he gives me all the tests and he goes, do you want the good news or do you want the bad news? And I went, well, I guess start with the good news. Let's set the high and then we'll find out how low we're going to get. And he said, here's the good news. He said, your knees look like the knees of a 59-year-old man. And fortunately, knee replacement technology has come a long way because you're going to be getting 2 new knees when you get old. You're just going to. You have the knees of a 60-year-old in your mid-30s. You're going to be getting new knees when you get old. And by the time you get to that point, I'm sure it'll be quick, easy, and painless, right, Lonzo? So I said, well, if that's the good news, that in 30 years I have to get new knees, and hopefully it'll be easy by then. What's the bad news? And he said, your ankles are worthless. If you ever misstep on the outside of your ankle just too much, like if there's a pebble and it pushes you to like a 20-degree angle on your ankle, you are going to roll your ankles. It won't be permanent damage, but the tendons that keep your ankles up and down are shot from basketball. And it was like, okay, that's fun.
And how wide would this pad be? There's no chance that you could step off the edge. And
No. It'd be like yay wide.
Wow.
Like it's designed to be put in front of a desk or like a wash
Dude,
station.
you're not rolling that up every day. That
No,
wide?
I would slide it under the side table over here. It would be like, hopefully, it would just be a matter of slide it under the table. Yes, those guards in England that stand all day. Usually by the time the show is over, I'm done standing for the day. I'm glad I'm doing it. I crossed 223 yesterday. I'm down 5 pounds just this week. I don't know if that's the reason why. You know what, Zoe? You know what we haven't done in a while? And I think this is worth it. I'm going to call this, great one, breaking news. I'm going to call this out of Major League Baseball. I'm going to call it breaking news, brought to you by our friends at BetMGM and the BetMGM network. Make sure you go pick up the app and listen to Bet for the Cycle every Saturday on the BetMGM network from noon to 4 on fine Odyssey stations everywhere, and hopefully, fingers crossed, on this station coming up sometime soon. We'll see. That's the plan. But make sure you listen to Bet for the Cycle on the BetMGM network every Saturday. So, a statement has been issued mere moments ago, and something that may or may not cause Alonzo to scratch a topic off of what the X is going on, from the New York Yankees. Did that make the cut? Maybe not, because it literally just dropped. Statement from Yankees managing general partner Hal Steinbrenner. Topic: alteration of Yankees facial hair policy. The statement reads, and I quote, "In recent weeks, I have spoken to a large number of former and current Yankees spanning several eras to elicit their perspectives on our long-standing facial hair and grooming policy, and I appreciate their earnest and varied feedback. These most recent conversations are an extension of ongoing internal dialogue that dates back several years. Ultimately, the final destination rests with me, and after great consideration, we will be amending our expectations to allow our players and uniformed personnel to have well-groomed beards moving forward. It is the appropriate time to move beyond the familiar comfort of our former policy." If you were unaware of this, it has been a story in the Major League Baseball for a very long time that the Yankees have had a facial hair policy that limits their players, coaches, managers, and uniformed employees to mustache only, and that mustache must end corner of the mouth. So basically you get like traditional standard mustache, no beards. And after literally decades, the Yankees have said, that's enough of that. Y'all can have some beards now. You can have a well-groomed, well-manicured beard now. Now, I know that I'm guilty of getting a little Andrew Luck neck beardy up in here every now and then, but when Rob Brown knows that he's got to go out in public, or he's got to do a TV appearance, or he's going to do a social media video, or whatever he's got to do, try to trim up the neck, get that line straight under the at least where the jawline used to be back in the day. Get it a little down on the cheeks. Although I'm kind of getting to the age now I had to shave the top of my cheeks this morning because I got hair. It was here, Lonzo. It was like on the top of my cheek.
See, I was thinking
I had hair up here.
I was thinking about that. You know who also has, hair way up there? That would be one Keanu Reeves. So, I mean, if you want to get some Keanu comparisons, let that thing go on up the cheek.
About 70 pounds in a black suit away from being able to pull off the Keanu. I mean, I hope I can look like John Wick one day. That'd be dope. Well, I'd really like to get to the point that I'm comfortable wearing a suit every day. I'd wear a suit every day if I look good in one. Also, hockey jerseys are way more comfortable.
I was going to say, you already have the I think it's Ted Theodore Logan look. I can't remember which one was. I think, yeah. It was Ted Theodore Logan. So you already got the Keanu hair going.
I'm good with that.
Why not,
dude? This is actually all right. So I know we're making jokes, we're making light of it, and that's one thing. I actually really like this. We did a last segment, or a couple of segments ago, I guess. Dude, radical, gnarly, totally. We did a segment a little while ago about ownership. Pop that P because the other words are appropriate for some of these owners. Ownership across sports. And I said a couple of times, there is nothing that sucks more as a fan of sports than when you come to recognize and realize that your owner sucks. That your owner doesn't care. Because I will tell you, in the landscape of being a bad owner, malice and apathy end up in the same result. I would rather be, if I am trying to accomplish something, I would rather be in it with somebody who is apathetic than somebody who is bad. Whatever that word is I was supposed to use right there. I'd rather be in it with somebody who doesn't care than somebody who is actively trying to sabotage me, obviously. The problem is when it comes to ownership in sports, malice and apathy get you the same result. Miserable fans who despise their own team. That's where I am, for instance, right now with my New Orleans Saints. My New Orleans Saints have an owner who does not care. She is completely and entirely apathetic towards the team. She is more concerned, as I have said a number of times, with how her public image is impacted. She doesn't want to own the team because she loves football. She doesn't want to own the team because she loves Saints. She wants to own the team so that she gets invited to all the big fancy Mardi Gras balls around New Orleans during carnival season, and she can go rub elbows with the high and mighties. She wants to own the team so that she can utilize the resources of the team to protect members of her church who were involved in illicit and illegal activity with children. That's just the thing that happened. And the result of that is the exact same as if she was Jerry Jonesing the team. It's the exact same result. We're just bad, and we're going to be bad for like a long time. It sucks. It stinks. It's awful. I hate it. This, combined with the offseason that the New York Yankees just had, is the reason that I am willing to put money down. Aside from the fact that they just have the best two rosters in baseball, aside from the fact that both of the teams, the Dodgers and the Yankees, are better this year than they were last year, and they were both in the World Series last year, I'm putting down a ticket on a Dodgers-Yankees World Series. I'm only getting the Dodgers at plus 250. You get the Yankees at like 4.5 to 1. You put them both together, a Dodgers-Yankees World Series explicitly, that jumps up to like 12 to 1. I'll take that number for clearly the two best teams in baseball to make it. I right now am pained in my heart of hearts to say what I am about to say. I have a lot of sorry. I have a ton of I don't know what that is. I have a ton of respect for the New York Yankees right now. I don't want to say that. I hate the evil empire. All right? I hate the Emperor's forces. Can't stand him. But I got a lot of respect for him right now for a couple of things. Number one, they wanted Juan Soto back. Who doesn't want Juan Soto back? Juan Soto is one of the best baseball players on planet Earth. He is a generational superstar. Of course they wanted him back. Of course they were willing to pay for him to come back. He decided to go across town and go be a New York metropolitan. A lot of teams in that spot would have taken what is Juan Soto getting paid? $17 billion that they were willing to put on the table to pay Juan Soto to keep him a spanky. A lot of teams would have taken that money and they'd have put it right back into the old checking account and said, we'll save that for a rainy day. We'll save that for the future. Maybe we'll buy us some new fancy uniforms or something. The Yankees did. The Yankees went out there and they signed a bunch of dudes. They signed Max Fried from Atlanta. That sucks. They signed guys. They said, all right, we didn't get Juan Soto, a generational, mid-20s, all-time bat, and a mediocre outfielder, but an all-time bat. We didn't get that guy. We wanted that guy. We didn't get that guy. He's going to go off and play in the National League, fine, whatever. But that doesn't mean we're done. And they went and they just, everywhere that there was a question mark, they put a period. They put an exclamation point. They got guys. They spent that money. A lot of teams wouldn't do that. A lot of teams would have taken that Juan Soto money and they'd have thrown it right back into the coffers and said, we'll worry about it another day. We'll worry about it another year. We'll worry about it another free agent. Not the Yankees. They said, no, we were dedicated to spending that money on Juan Soto. We might as well spend that money on other people who help us get better. Then this. And yes, it started off as a joke and a throwaway. It's not a throwaway. It is a joke, but now it's also not a joke. The facial hair policy. Now, Lonzo and I work in radio. We make just slightly below Juan Soto money right now. If the boss man came to me and he said, hey, Rob Brown, we're going mustache or clean shaven only around here. I like it around here enough that I would probably say okay. My wife wouldn't. She's seen me without a beard. She's like, mm-mm. She told me to my face, if you would have been clean shaven when we met, we wouldn't be married right now. And for the record, fair. She has described me multiple times as looking like the lead singer of a Southern Baptist quartet when I'm clean shaven. It's not unfair, okay? I like it enough here, I'd probably do it, but I got to tell you, I'd have to think about it. I don't know how much money.
I would have to invest in turtlenecks because that's the only way you'd be able to tell a difference if I had to. Yeah,
I respect that. I would have to figure out a way. How do I cover up 2 of the 3 chins? All right. A beard is slimming on me, mainly because I'm fat. So I don't know what amount of players have looked at that and gone, I'm not going there because of their facial hair policy. What I do know is that if they're willing to have a policy like this in place, it also means that they're probably very authoritarian everywhere else. And I think that was good for Juan Soto because I think he was in the old inmates running the asylum strategy the Padres have going on, and he was such a young kid who just didn't have discipline and rigor, and he got to the Yankees, he found it, now he's a better player. I don't know if that's a thing, but with a policy like this, I'm willing to bet it is. And now what the Yankees effectively said at this point is, hey, we're not doing that anymore. This is not a totalitarian regime that wears pinstripe uniforms on game day. We're going to open it up. Players, you guys are going to be more considerable. We still want you to look good, still want you to rep the brand, and that's fine. Just like if the boss came in here and said, hey, look, we just need you to be trimmed up. You don't have to shave, but we need you to be clean shaven, lined up every day. I'd go, okay, that's fine by me. And they don't do that. But if they did, I'd go, okay, that's fine. I like this. I have a ton of respect for what the Yankees are doing right now this offseason by telling the players, A, we're investing, and B, it's your squad too, which they've never done before. The Yankees scare me this year.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
All right, let's finish up this week by talking what is Xing. I'm going to tell Rob what is Xing, and he will tell you why. The first thing that's Xing is The Rock.
Dwayne is Xing right now because Dwayne is apparently going to be on Friday Night SmackDown tonight. And earlier today, he sent out, or last night maybe, I don't know. He sent out a social media post that said, I'm going to be at SmackDown. Called himself the final boss, which we all kind of thought the final boss character was probably dead after the WrestleMania after the Royal Rumble appearance. Or where was it that he showed up? I don't remember. Wherever he showed up last time. Oh, the Monday Night Raw on Netflix debut. We all kind of thought that was dead.
Actually, the last time he was on NXT, I think.
Well, yeah, but the last time that most everybody saw him was Raw on Netflix debut. We all kind of thought he was getting away from that.
Dissing the CW, man.
I'm not dissing it. I'm just saying, like, the overwhelming majority of fans watch Raw and SmackDown, not NXT. We do, because we're awesome. Not so much the normal. But the point is, we all kind of thought that character was dead. And he said, I'm coming into, and I don't have the quote in front of me, Zoe. I don't know if you know it off the top of your head, but basically said, I am about to shake everything up with the gospel of the final boss. And I was like, word. I want authority, Dwayne.
That's one of the reasons why Zach's in. The other thing is, supposedly he has just been, he's going to be in a Martin Scorsese movie.
I saw a screen cap. They had him in like a,
it's a Hawaiian mob boss.
Yeah, I saw that. And I looked at it and I'm like,
with Matt Damon. I don't know if it's real or not, but I'm kind of interested.
I'm here for it. I'm all in for it.
So I guess we can declare him as a real actor now.
Oh, for sure. He has been for a while.
If he's going to be in that. All right.
He is now an actor who wrestles, not a wrestler who acts.
We'll see about that. All right. The next thing that's texting is Henry Cavill.
No idea why Henry Cavill's trending. I'm going to assume it's his birthday.
No, he is Xing because Amazon now has the rights to James Bond.
That's right. I did see that. They got it from MGM. I guess a couple of the longtime producers or something.
Barbara Broccoli and the other dude, the one who's been doing it for a long time, have moved on to other projects.
Yeah. And so Amazon acquired the rights to James Bond, which means the next James Bond movies are going to be available on Amazon Prime. And there has been talk. There's been two guys that have been circled as the most likely next Bond, Henry Cavill and Idris Elba. And I'll tell you.
Oh, no, there's another one.
Who's the other one?
He just did Craven, which nobody watched.
I was really excited about it. And then the other day, a commercial for Disney Plus came on and they were talking about it. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that was a thing.
Yeah.
Which is too bad because Craven in the comics is great.
Well, he was also Quicksilver in Avengers. And he,
is that same guy?
Yeah. He was also Kick. I'm not going to say the next word.
Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
Which was
awesome.
That two movie set is fun. I don't care. It's fun.
So we'll see if one of those guys ends up being James Bond. But now we got a chance of that move forward.
You're in charge. Idris Elba or Henry Cavill?
I'm going Henry Cavill.
See, I'm going Idris Elba.
Yeah, I'm going Henry Cavill. All right.
Who's the best Bond?
The last one.
Daniel Craig?
Yes.
I'm good with that.
All right. The next thing it's texting is Austin Reeves because I can't not pass that up again.
No, you absolutely cannot. LeBron dropped a 40-burger last night. His second 40-point game as a 40-year-old, only NBA player in history that has multiple 40-point games after 40 years old. Austin Reeves, as LeBron was getting set for his post-game interview on the floor, walked over and called him. And now it's just what we say about anybody over 40. Because that gives me 5 more days to not be a.
You know, now that's going to be on your cake underneath the AARP, probably.
I respect Austin Reeves for doing that. I mean, right in his face too. That's good. Hey, that's it for us. Thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. Have a tremendous weekend, everybody. Do not drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face when we come back on Monday. Second half of the NBA season, second half of the NHL season. We'll be a few days deep in MLB spring training. Daytona in the books. Atlanta up next. We'll talk about that and more. For Lonzo, I'm Rob. Thanks for being here. Tell your friends about us. We're trying to get rich and famous. See you Monday on The Rob Brown Show and The Fan Upstate. Later. We got off the air and I opened my phone and it said I had a text message and I half expected it to be one from the boss going, come down to my office.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you would have doomed yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I did it. I did it to myself. I did it to my own old ass. So good. All right, boys and girls, we got a jet. We have stuff to do. And also it's Friday and I don't want, I don't want Lonzo to have to be here all day waiting for me. So we're going to take off. Thank you for being here. You're all amazing. We love you very much. All right. Have a good weekend. Tell your friends about us. And other wonderfully polite, kind, nice.
Yeah, just go away.